everybody doing? Hit you with that Prince one, didn't I? Good morning to everybody. Happy Tuesday to you, October the 17th. We keep barreling through this year, y'all. I keep telling you, man, it's like we blink, it goes by. Just one more day, one more again. Beautiful morning out, nice and crisp outside. Hope you guys are safe on the road this morning as you guys are just another Fragrances viewer, and some of you guys who are, and ladies, of course, who are getting ready for work and about to head out the door. Be safe out there. I gotta take my car. Took my car in this morning to Covert Ford. I think you guys, I've told you guys that I've had the splash guard being held together by duct tape for like the past few months. Finally decided to go ahead and get this thing done. Man, people, it's crazy to me how at like 6:30 in the morning people are wilding on these roads, like they're speeding and riding on you, and you're like, man, like calm down. I caught the Uber back, and then it's like on 183 there was a car that was flipped, like a car literally had flipped. And I'm just like, man, like y'all be safe on those roads in the morning, man. There is nowhere that you need to be that's that important to risk your life or anybody else. So you guys be out there. Right hand lane is your friend. There's a good morning lesson from this morning. So anyway, be safe on those roads today. Please do. Can't imagine being 7 o'clock in the morning and having your car flipped, man. That's a talk about a horrible way to start your day. Good Lord. So anyway, everybody be safe. PSA from this morning. Good morning and welcome back to hopefully one of your favorite shows, your favorite morning routines that are out there. It's your Drunk Unk, and welcome to the old-fashioned sports show. I'm your host, Anwar Richardson. Not to be confused with Anwar Richardson, but you know what? I'm going to have a guest on today, so anything's on the table. The rules are, if I have a guest on and they say Anwar as opposed to Anwar, you got to do a shot. So by 9:20, when Joseph Duarte comes on from the Houston Chronicle, it's on. It may be on and popping. You guys may be owing me shots today. So just stay tuned. Stay tuned. We're going to see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen, but stay tuned. It's going to be fun. I do have a fun show for you guys planned today. I have, like I just mentioned, Joseph Duarte. Here's the Chronicle. We're going to get smart, get educated, know a little bit more about the Houston team, the Houston Cougars. I know he's a guy that's in high demand this week. He's a person that's got everybody just nipping at his heels, wanting him to be on the show. So he'd be on their shows. There's like 8 million podcasts out there. It's hard for him to do all of them. I understand. I talked to him yesterday, and I understand his pain. It's not like, humble brags or first world problems and stuff like that, but man, there's a podcast. Everybody's got a podcast now, man. It is everybody's got a podcast. Everybody does. And I get flattered because I get a lot of invitations to be on people's podcasts, but it's just so hard to do them all. It's just hard. It's hard for me. Just a time constraint to do it. So I appreciate that Joseph's actually going to make some time for me today. And then, of course, Jason Suchomel, who has no real damn choice in the matter. He'll be on at 10:20. What's he going to do? Say no? You can't say no to Orange Bloods. Like, you work here, man. Like, you can't say no. So Jason Suchomel, whether he wants to or not, will be on the show at 10:20. It'll break down everything. We'll blame him for Ryan Wingo. We'll blame him for everything that we want to, but get your questions ready for him because we got Jason coming a little bit later. Let me say good morning to some folks in the chat as well. I'm going to make sure I say hello to the early risers. The Tuesday's usually a day where people kind of fall off. Monday's a heavy day. Tuesday's a fall off day. Then people come back on Wednesday and Thursday. So for my loyal soldiers that are there, oh man, Rodolfo could have had a shot to be in the top 3, and he messed up. So Zio_V gets that top spot, the number 1 spot to my favorite Hennessy bottle. Cesar Torres is here. Robert, good morning to you, is here. It's 5:30 p.m. in Vietnam, and you still. Robert, what are you doing? I know you told me to be in Vietnam this week. I need, at some point, Robert, you know what? I need you to take pictures, Robert. I need you to take pictures. And we're gonna do a segment when you get back. We're gonna call it Vietnam with Robert. And I just know because I gotta know. I gotta know. I'm ignorant to a lot of things in life. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm just ignorant to a lot of things. A lot of things that's going on in this world. I'm not gonna get into it. I have no clue what's going on, and I got to do some research. I don't know why you're in Vietnam. Is Vietnam some, like, some hidden treasure that we don't know about? Did you find? You get mail, Robert? You got mail order bride over there, Robert. Did you find your wife over there? And are you sending her money through Venmo or Western Union every single month? Do you have a family over there, Robert? I think that's what it is, Robert. You got yourself a little family over there. All right. Well, hey, wherever you need to find love, Robert, judgment free zone. Soto 806 is in here. Anthony, good morning to you as always. DWD with good with your homie, just another fragrance reviewer as well. Getting ready for work. Go ahead and do your thing. The original OG, Chris Bennett, is in the house. My homie Mike Harges is in the house. Jay Ward, always good to see you, Jay Ward. You're in the house as well. Promise there will be no sweet talk about Dana Holgerson this week, Jay Ward. You don't have to worry about that. I will not be nice to Dana, but I'll be curious a little bit more about him. Chris Nelson back in that house. Yo, back to you as well. Chris Nelson, you changing your damn name, Chris. You changed your name too much, Chris. And then first it was Chris. You had all these other names. Now it's Chris N. Like, man, the feds ain't watching, Chris. You'll be okay. Just be Chris Nelson. You're good. You're good. You're not Takashi over in the Dominican Republic. You're good right now, Chris. Sark After Dark is good in here. Mitchell, good to see you as well. The Sandman 23. Mark Ruiz is in here. Doug, love my main man. Doug is in here. Just a dude. I like Just a Dude. Just a Dude, mad cool people. Like him as lot. Blake Winfrey is in here. Text guy too. Happy Tuesday from the B word. Man, we don't talk about Buc-ee's. No. We don't talk about Buc-ee's. Not until they get that situation situated, man. I can't. I was liking Buc-ee's, but not if the son is allegedly a creeper. If the son's allegedly a creeper, I can't. I'll be honest with you. I don't. Last time when I went to Dallas. I had been talking up the Buc-ee's trip, and then that story came out right beforehand. I kept going. I did. I was like, you ruined it. You ruined it for me, man. Like, I can't give him money if I know it's going for, like, to support the creeper allegedly. So if the son's a creeper and that ends up being true, it's gonna be real hard on him, brother. So anyway, damn you, text guy. Damn you, text guy. You freaking ruined it for me, text guy. Golly. Sandman 23, of course. Darian, of course, is in here. And everybody else. And so hopefully everyone else is doing good. Oh yeah, last thing. I had mentioned this yesterday, and I'll follow up on this today. So I remember I told you I did the show, and I was doing the Overreaction Monday. I was like, what the hell is the name of the show? Overreaction Monday with Catch, and I started talking about my pinky toe. Yeah, it was hurting. And I know some of you guys said don't go, and one of my good friends said don't worry about going. Man, I had to go. I went to the walk-in clinic, and damn it, man, broke his pinky toe. My pinky toe is broke. I got a boot on and everything right now, but damn it, man, that thing happened to me. It did. Yes, they showed me it's like a good, I thought it was just a fracture, but it was like a good split. And I was like, well, that's broke. And they're like, yep, that's a definition of broke. So I got the splint on for the next couple of weeks or something like that. That was a boot on for the next couple of weeks. So I was like, well, why can't I just wear sandals? And they're like, well, you need the support of this boot, and you can't wear. I was like, well, because my sandals look better than this boot. Like, I don't even know how to rock this. So nonetheless, yeah, man. The trampolines, man. The trampolines, man. Stay out of those things. I knew. By the way, there's a Harlem Nights reference in there about pinky toes. Money B, you've been really good, Money B, on my references. I want to know if you got the pinky toe reference for me, Money B, because yeah, that's Thank God I mowed the grass before my weekend, boy. I can tell you that much because I don't know how the heck I get that thing done going forward. But yeah, no more drunk for a while. Man, if there ever was a time for me to have a drink, is when you break your pinky toe. I can tell you that. I can tell you that much. If there ever was a person who needed a little something, a little drinky drink, it's right now. But at least the pain is tolerable. So yeah. So anyway, I had to let you guys know anything like that. And Jay Ward, have I been watching any horror movies for the Halloween season? You know what's interesting? It's funny you say that. So my son, my oldest son, he's gonna go as Jason from Friday the 13th. He's gonna go and do that. And he's gonna be with his mom that day. So I was asking him, I was like, man, so have you ever seen the movie? And he's like, no, I haven't. And I was like, well, why don't you watch it first so you know what you're wearing? How do you even know what Jason is, but you don't never watch the movie? So I went and started watching it on Sunday, but I had came back from Mexico and I had only like 2 hours of sleep because I had like a 7:00 flight, trying to check in 3 hours internationally. I'm not trying to get stuck anywhere, and it's not trying to get stuck in Mexico. So I tried to make sure I got there early. I was exhausted, so I started watching it with him, and I fell asleep. And then apparently my youngest son called his brother, and then he didn't want his brother to see all the gory stuff. So I started to watch it. I'll be honest with you though, I don't do a lot of horror movies. It kind of makes me a little nervous. Did I tell you? I got time. I got 3 hours. Don't worry. I got enough sports takes for you. So don't worry about it. So you mentioned horror movies. So check this out. Years ago, I think I'm in my 20s, right? And I live in Florida. And they got this thing called Halloween Horror Nights there. If you I think SeaWorld may have something similar to this thing where basically Universal, they turn it into a whole, like they put haunted houses, but they still got the rides, but it's all it's all the haunted theme, right? Took a date on this thing. So I thought it'd be kind of a cool thing. She'll scream. I'll be able to, hold on to her. I thought it was going to be a smooth look. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was a smooth look. Drove from Tampa to Orlando. So all that, right? Bro. The only person who was screaming those haunted houses was me. I'm talking about hitting the high notes like Mariah Carey. I'm talking about I was frozen. Like a lot of times I just was closing my eyes in the whole thing. Like I was just like, the whole thing was freaking me out, right? And so I remember the last creme de la creme, right? When we sat down on the bench, right? And I was like, man, this thing is intense. Like this thing is intense. And all of a sudden, Jason comes out of the bushes next to me. I took off. I left her behind. I took off. I was like, every man and woman for himself. It's scared the whatever out of me. Yeah, I never got a date with her again. That was it. It was a wrap. I lost all cool points. I lost all man points. I lost all of that. So yeah, Halloween ain't really my thing. I'll be honest with you. I don't mess around with that. And then I grew up. My mom never let me do too much Halloween stuff anyway because of her church affiliation. So I don't really do Halloween a lot. I'll just be honest with you. But fellas, if you're a little squeamish around the Halloween thing, don't take a date out there. You're going to lose all cool points. You will lose all cool points, all man points when you were screaming more than her. She just laughed at me. I'll never forget. She just laughed at me. And there's been 2 times I've been laughed at like that by a woman. It was her. And then I'll give you one of my other stories from high school. And we'll get into that one as well. By the way, he was like, you died. Yeah, you on your own. Hey, I don't know you like that. I don't really know you. I'm not quite sure. I know your last name. Like, I don't know you. I'm out. I'm just out. I left her behind. Oh, well, it wasn't meant to be. Thinking of things that are meant to be. And I got a good one day. I'm gonna give you good. So probably in the off season, I'll give you my good. I got a good high school story for you guys that we'll get into. But in the off season, where there's a little bit less to talk about, and I'm trying to figure out how to do 3 hours a day when there's no football. Yeah, that story will come sometime in February. I get Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, I'll give you good. I'll give you Valentine's Day. I'll give you guys a lot of good, fun love stories and broken love stories in the past. But here's one person I do love. It's my main man, El Presidente. Look how smooth Aaron is when he puts that stuff. He knows all my transitions and everything. It's like we have relationship going on. We have like this synergy that's going on. My main man, Eric Sells Holmes, DFW. He's the man with the master plan, the man with the hookup. He's the person that's got you covered. If you're looking for a home in the DFW area, you don't have to look any further than my main man, Eric Torres. Looking to buy a home, looking to sell a home, looking for information about homes. Like, why not? Why not right now? Right? Why wait? Like, get that thing going and get that process started. You thinking about doing it next year? Don't wait until next year. Start doing your due diligence. Get the process started. Eric Sells Homes, DFW. It's going to be, he's the man that's got you covered. So you see that QR code right there, whether you're seeing it right now live or you're seeing it on the replay. I appreciate everybody that watches the show on replay. Shout out to the people who watch the show, but they watch it at the 1.5 speed. You guys are very unique in a very unique way of doing things, but I learned much about watching things in 1.5 speed. So you guys are doing a replay. Props to you. Eric Sells Homes, DFW. Appreciate it. He has got you covered. Mark Ruiz says, oh, the show's going to be through the off season. Mark, this show is here, period. Every day, except for like some holidays, a sick day, something like that. Overall, no, the OB live. So you understand, Mark. And it's a great question. I'm glad you asked that too, man. No, our goal is to do this format that you're seeing day in, day out, for as long as we can, as long as we keep this thing up, as long as you guys still YouTube exists, as long as all that, like that's the plan of action. So Mark, you're going to see me in the rest of this year, January, February, March, April, you name it, June. I mean, I take some vacation, so I don't know about that. But July, I saw Aaron before here. I'm killing it in PrizePicks, man. I'm definitely I'm taking a trip. I'm killing it on PrizePicks. I hit for about 500 last night. So put 20 down, made 500. So yeah, we're going to be here. And good morning to you, Nick. Good morning to you. I hope you're doing well, man. I hope you're doing well. I hope the family is doing well. Yeah, so there's a roll call. I don't know where SEC Mike is at. Texas Mama is at. South End Zone Queen is at. Colby is that around. Rodolfo, Cotton. Where the hell is everybody out there? And by the way, Mark, I know you said put our picks out there. So the PrizePicks, real quick. I'm going to do a quick break. PrizePicks is doing this thing. They sent me a text message yesterday. I'm always kind of the point person for this whole thing. They're going to be doing something now with us where this is going to be called like community plays. And I believe if you do community plays, you guys might be able to see what our picks are. So yeah, it's Morning Anwar introduced a community plays in the app. We would love to have you guys pick in there for this weekend's games. So yeah, so there might be something that you're able to see out there as well. Coleman, all right, Dale Coleman's here. All right, good to make sure you're here. Jeezy's here, all right, and Mike Pips is in the house from Lake. How do you say this? Zavala, Texas? Is that correct? I've never heard of this place. BK, my man from ATL, is in the house as well. Good to see you, BK. I didn't know you were lurking back there, but good to see you well. So yeah, I'll find a way to kind of put these picks out there. I mean, here's the last thing I'm going to say on it. Let me do a break. I'm a little bit hesitant to put stuff out there because I'm guessing. I don't know. So I mean, I want you guys to get mad and take it. But I will say, for the most part, I have been hitting though. I gotta be hitting, and I got a thing in there, and I got a season long that I did a pre-season long once. I have to show it to Aaron when they haven't pop it up. Man, man, I got one player. If I can hit on all these things, I did 6, I could get 2,500, 2,500. I just got one player, the Ohio State running back that keeps getting injured. But if I can get this man healthy and he gets over 900 yards and everybody else continues to trend the way I need them to trend, I just gonna do 25. So Unc might be able to clear like 5 G's. Boy, look at here. I'm quit my job. No, I can't quit it for 5 G's. But nonetheless, that'll be out there. And then with Sandman, you said Chad Hastings has a foot fetish. Oh, is that because of that weird foot that Chet's told everyone to Google, something to that effect? I don't know. I don't know what his foot fetish is. But yeah, I got my foot covered. I don't think no. And I got nice feet for a dude. So I don't know what Chad's into, but I'll let that be for the noon show. That's noon to 3. You can catch all foot fetishes and whatever that's going on over there. That's not this kind of show. That's not how we're getting our day started. That's not our kind of party. All right, but here's our party right now. Let's go ahead and go to a break. Then we come back, man. Look, Steve Sarkisian, he spoke to the media yesterday. He had a lot of things to say, a lot of things that I want to kind of go over with you guys on this fantastic, nice and chilly, beautiful Tuesday that's out there. So I want to kind of do a review of some things that stood out from Sark's press conference. We will do buy or sell today. We did not do it yesterday. I don't even remember we did it on Friday. We may have, but I can't. No, we didn't do a show on Friday. So hell, I didn't do a show on Friday or Thursday. And I felt like we did a shorter one on Wednesday. I haven't done buy or sell in damn near a week. So it's buy or sell is long overdue. My gosh, but I just did the math on it. It's been too long. So go ahead and right now start getting your buy or sell question. You haven't had a chance to ask me a question in nearly a week. I'm sorry, y'all. Go ahead and get your buy or sell questions in here. Let's go ahead and do a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about Sarkisian. I'm going to get into this whole theme of, the finish thing and this. I've got a lot to say. I got a lot on my mind, but this whole like something to prove thing, I've got a lot to say on it. A lot of it's good. Some of it's bad. Some of it I really want to kind of dive in and peel back the layers on it. So I've got a lot to discuss. I got a lot to talk about. Me and my pinky toe will be here as soon as we get back for the break. Don't go anywhere. Talk to you guys soon.
This Orange Bloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best recruits from the Charlie Strong era, wide receiver Devin Duvernay. Duvernay was one of the top prospects that the Longhorns signed in the 2016 recruiting class, but his pathway to the Longhorns was as unconventional as anyone in that class or almost any other. The number 52 overall player in the country, number 5 player in the state of Texas, and number 8 wide receiver in the country per Rivals, the high 4-star super blue chip had one doozy of a recruitment. Before he attended a Texas Junior Day in February of 2015, he told Orange Bloods' Jason Suchomel that the Longhorns were front and center in his recruitment. Quote, "They're in it. I like Texas. Grew up liking Texas," Duvernay said. "When I've been there, I like them. With the new staff, I like what they're doing. I think the program will be back pretty soon." Yet Baylor, the first school to actually offer Duvernay a scholarship, was always a school that had his attention. It also had his brother Donovan's attention as well, as he made the jump to commit to Baylor in September of 2015. 2 months later, Devin joined him, choosing the Bears over Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. That's right, no Texas among his initial group of finalists. That was pretty much that for Duvernay, as he signed in February of 2016 with the Bears. But Duvernay decided to explore other options after a sexual assault scandal surrounding the Baylor program and the subsequent firing of head coach Art Briles. It was later discovered that Duvernay's national letter of intent was never properly submitted by Baylor, making him immediately open to other programs. After not having the Longhorns among his original finalists, Duvernay signed with the Longhorns Longhorns in June of 2016. And once Baylor released his brother, he also joined the Longhorns 2016 recruiting class. When it was all said and done, Baylor's loss turned out to be one hell of a game for the Texas football program, who added one of the best receivers in school history.
All right, welcome back. Zio_ says, why you trying to steal Deion swag with that boot? Hey, the good thing is, at the very least, I still got all my toes, so there is that. It's got one jacked up toe. That's the only problem, though. But it's not really jacked up. It's just got a good cut, man. Pinky toe. There's a Harlem Nights reference in there for you guys. There's somebody that's missing it. Am I the only one that's seen Harlem Nights? I know Aaron hasn't seen. I know Aaron has no clue what the hell I'm talking about. But there is one in there. And one day, Aaron, we're gonna figure out. One day we're gonna do a segment, Aaron, where I just throw some like old school stuff, and you just give me a review on it. Money B, Money B got it. Oh yeah, you guys shot me in my pinky. You shot me in my pinky toe. Oh, it's a good one. Aaron, do yourself a favor. You ever get bored, which it never. There's a movie out called Harlem Nights, and it's a reference. He got his pinky toe. This Delarice, she got her pinky toe shot off. But it's Eddie Murphy says, like, I'm going to shoot you in your pinky toe. So that's where all that came from. And damn it, man. I can't believe this, but I swear to you, this is going to be somewhat annoying to you. I may have to close my door at some point. I'm pretty sure I'm hearing my smoke detector telling me I need a new battery. Golly, there's a lot of things that go along with that, and a lot of stereotypes that go along with that. But nonetheless, it looks like I don't know how I'm supposed to climb up with a boot to change a battery like that. That just sounds like another hospital visit to me. I'm just gonna let you know we may have to let this thing ride for another few weeks, or I'm gonna have to get somebody to come out here and do it. But I just think me in a boot on a ladder sounds like a horrible idea. Just me verbalizing it, it sounds like an absolute horrible idea. So yeah, we'll get to that nonetheless. Okay, so a couple of things from yesterday. Let's do some house cleaning. Let's do some housekeeping business that's there. And again, I'm glad to see everyone's starting to file in. By the way, if you do me a favor, if you can, go ahead and hit the like button. If you just go ahead and smash that. Nearly 100 of you guys are in here. And then, of course, hit the subscribe button if you have not subscribed to the channel. So you get when all these shows get started, you get a chance to know like what's going on at what time and all the other kind of good stuff. So you'll never miss out on a show. You'll always get some sort of email notification that pops up. You're like, oh man, it's showtime. Like I won't miss it. I don't know what y'all doing in there. Good morning to you, Retmore, though. I'm glad to see that you're all there. So the kickoff time for BYU was announced 2:30 p.m. I don't love 2:30 starts. I'll be honest with you. The only start I love is 11 o'clock start. I mean, I'll just keep it honest with you. It's so selfish. But 2:30, I was thinking about it. 2:30 though gives you a chance, an opportunity. If you want to do something after the game, some of you guys may have some Halloween parties that you're going to over the weekend. Like that 2:30 start actually works out pretty cool, to be honest with you. So yeah, to be a good time for a 2:30 start. And maybe if it gets dark enough, they might be able to do a little bit of a light show depending on the time frames or something to that effect. So, but 2:30 versus BYU, that thing kind of happened. It made me think about too. Chris Bennett is a walking encyclopedia, so appreciate this. But I was starting to think about the last time I saw BYU and DKR, and here's what's interesting. So, kind of a backdrop for that game. When you was talking to some of the people, some of my sources on that staff, so we're talking about a couple of staffs ago, right? They was going into that BYU game. And it was like, damn, Those damn smoke detectors gonna kill me. They were going to that BYU game, and I remember talking to them specifically, and there was a huge confidence that they were just gonna curve stomp BYU. Like they looked at the film and they just thought to themselves, like, we got this. Like this is gonna happen. Like they're okay, but they're not that all that. And I'll be honest with you. I know it's early. Hopefully we're all adults can have that conversation. I just think they looked at them and just thought to themselves, you know what? Nah, like these older guys of a different skin tone are not going to be able to come in here and do anything to us. I think there was that kind of arrogance. And yeah. So then that's when all of a sudden we realized that Taysom Hill is pretty damn good. And I was still to this day, and never gonna forget him jumping over Dylan Haynes on that touchdown run. Like I won't forget it. Like it will be implanted in my memory. And I'm sure Dylan Haynes is probably thinking to himself, like, damn, well, thanks a lot, dog. And I'm like, hey, it happened. Like, dude just hurtled him into the end zone, and didn't break stride. Like, you know how athletic you have to be to do something like that. And yeah, it ended up being a good old fashioned ass whooping. Like that, it was bad. It was like go get the switch kind of bad. Like it was bad. And so I remember that. I don't think BYU has anything to that capabilities on their team now. So I don't think that's something you look at and say, ooh, that's in play for Texas. But boy, I do remember that. So 2:30 start gives you a chance. It looks like I might end up getting a chance to go to a little Halloween party on that night, which I really haven't done. I know, like I said, I hadn't done a lot of things like that. So, but yeah, it looks like, you get a chance to go enjoy yourself, do a little Halloween, and then get ready. Halloween in my house, what I normally do is I'd go out, I get the candy, and I get shots of tequila for the adults. That's my house. That's my house. I get shot glasses. I buy a bunch of plastic one of those. Get a bottle of tequila, and hey, candy for the kids, shots for the adults. Usually have a pretty popular house. Not gonna lie. I've had people come back. They didn't come back for the Tootsie Rolls. So and that's always funny because the teenagers always want to get, well, man, they give me a man, you would not put an unk in nobody's jail. You don't get your little butt away from my house and take that little Snickers bar and keep it moving. So yes, that happened as well. The other thing that Sark had talked about that I thought, was really interesting. He gave a really positive update, which was a really interesting thing. Mike, I don't go through too much tequila. I'll be honest with you. I don't go through too much tequila. I live in a cul-de-sac, so it's kind of sometimes hard to get the people to come in there and attract them. So, but I go through enough, and I get a little. The thing is, Mike, here's where it gets tricky, is because what I would try to do is let's everybody do a shot, because I don't want them to think this weird guy's pouring out shots, and so he's handing them out, but it's like, what's in it, kind of thing. They're like, nah, I'll do one with you. The bad part is, man, I get dicey. That gets dicey about an hour and a half in, boy, because I'm like, oh Lord, another one, man. I'm like, oh, So anyway, I gotta figure out what to do that and make it through this year. But he started talking about an injury report. And he basically talked about how Jake Majors, Jatavian Sanders, Ryan Watts, were limited to, all about nothing in the last week's practices, and basically said that they were able to participate on Monday. It's interesting, though. I ain't trying to start nothing, but when I was on vacation, apparently there was a report out that said Jake Majors would be out for 6 to 8 weeks, and he was practicing on Monday. So there's that. So there's a positive thing that's out there. Let me report some junk like someone's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks and that person practicing a few days later. Y'all would just kill if I did something like that. It's just amazing. Just amazing, isn't it? But nonetheless, positive reviews. Now, the only person that he said was kind of limited the most was Cole Hudson. He said Cole Hudson, his knee was probably a little limited in most of the group. But then he said later on in the week about it when he kind of be able to make that determination. And so he'll figure that thing out going forward. But yes, a positive injury report, which is always a good thing around this time of year. They kind of talked about a couple of little things that have gone on. Shook Ones, you asked, have I let my kids see just to know, Shook Ones, I tried to let him watch Jason Friday the 13th on Sunday, but I fell asleep, and then his brother called him, and he didn't want his brother to hear all the gory stuff in the background, so he turned it off. So he hasn't finished it yet, but we'll probably finish it at some point this week. So we'll do Friday the 13th, and then he can do everything else as well. He was asked about things that he learned about his team, and then he talked about the positives that he's learned about the team. They said they were able to move the ball at a high clip, yards per play, they're pretty efficient, improved on the third down efficiency, fourth down efficiency. He was really happy about the fourth down efficiency. And so those are the positives. And he talked about, from a constructive standpoint, though, the red zone execution, so how that needs to improve. And he said that involved around the evaluation of players, the game plan, the play caller himself, right? So I appreciated that at the end of the day, one thing I do, appreciate, about Sark, is that he's not really afraid, from what I've noticed, to say like, hey, these things are on me. Like I've seen coaches put these things on players too often. And I really don't like those coaches, to be honest with you. I don't like those coaches. So I once got into it. It's a good story. This is why I watch it, because I've got tons of stories. I've got tons of stories we're covering this beat. I think I can say okay. So yeah, I can say it now. So because I'll say it now, because it actually did become public. So I remember when Vance Bedford was the coach here at Texas, and sometimes he wouldn't speak after the after games. He spoke, then he stopped speaking, right? And then he and I got into back and forth, and I basically called him out. And I'm like, look, man, you're the coach. I don't want to hear nothing about how much you care about players when you're on the bus after a game and the players are having to answer for what's going on with the defense. I was like, that ain't right. You don't that don't fly with me, So you stand here, because I'm used to the NFL. You can talk to coordinators after games. You can get some information. So this whole I don't like it. Be honest with you, I don't like the whole thought process of coach speaks, then the players, especially after a loss, have to be the ones that have to answer for losses. I'm like, no, let the grown men who are making high six figures, seven figures a year, you guys answer the question, and let those young people who 20 years and 21 years old, now they're getting paid, but before they wasn't getting paid, like put them on the bus, and they don't have them ask the questions. So what I appreciate about Sark, at least in this one, of course, I wish he would let the coordinator, he's an offensive coordinator for all intents and purposes. But I do wish he would let Pete K speak after games, especially after a loss, because, I don't think it's fair to ask Jalen Ford what happened in the game when he's not the person that called it, right? Let's have Pete K, the person that's making 1.7, he should be the person that's answering questions after the game. Just my opinion. That's just me. Now, I know they would say, well, then we just don't make anybody available. Well, your prerogative, but it's just my thought process, my opinion. It is what it is. So what I do appreciate about Sarkisian is that at least he will say, hey, these are things that I need to do better as a coach. And I think when you're able to do that, I think you're able to get more kids to rally around you, because now all of a sudden they're looking and like, oh, okay, like it's not just a coach yelling at me. There's a coach that's taking the ownership and responsibility as well, right? So I think that helps out as far as getting folks to really buy in and play hard for you. So I talked about that and the things that he needs to do better. The defensively, they played good defense outside of this last game. So I don't get too worked up, about that. But he did say they do to create more turnovers. And it's crazy because that's what they worked on all off season. You guys remember I posted like a video. I think I don't know which coach it was. I think it was like Terry Reynolds or something like that. But anyway, I think they had players wearing like boxing gloves trying to knock things out. And I told you, that was a really odd thing because I was like, I don't know when you're going to use a boxing glove in a game. So it's a weird concept to practice, but okay. But that was a point of emphasis nonetheless. It was a point of emphasis was they said to themselves, like, we got to create more turnovers. And that still becomes the thing that he looks at today and said they've got to be able to create more turnovers. Now, there is give and take with that, right? Because sometimes when you're trying to create turnovers, you're also not tackling somebody. So how do you make that thing work? There is a balance that's associated with that. But he did talk about the tackling needs to be better as well. So I thought it was an objective point of view. He was asked about Savion Red, and he kind of went into that and talked about him being a kind of a high school Wildcat quarterback, then switching to wide receiver, transitions to running back. And then saying hopefully there's going to be some more opportunities, in the future. Good morning to you, Rodolfo. I was wondering where you were, man. Good to see you. Glad you're amongst the land of the living today. And then he talked about Savion Red. He did talk about the kind of the 2s and the 3s. I asked him about that because he did say that was going to kind of be a point of emphasis. And he talked about, when it comes to some of these young players, they have the highlight plays. But he's talking about something. There's a need for consistency, that they just can't have a few good plays and then have a bust. So he said, like, the frontline players understand that, but he's got to get the other people to understand, like, hey, you just can't have 3 or 4 good plays and then all of a sudden, boom, it's got to be consistent. And so, but he didn't, want to give anyone, a name and want to, single anybody out. And I get it. Catch and Chad talked about this on their show yesterday, but it's very true. If you start mentioning, like, well, this guy stuck, Ryan Niblett, stuck out, and this other person stuck out, and this and that, and you don't mention other people, if you mention 3 and don't mention the other 12 would think to themselves, all right, well, I guess Sark don't think I'm good. I'm out. Those, especially when you're young, you're not playing anyway. That's always a hard part, especially this age of transfer portal, where kids are just there. It just is what it is as far as loyalty is concerned. So yeah, he didn't single anybody out, but I did also have a tack-on question about Malik and Arch. I was thinking to myself, man, I was like, man, it's in season, so there's no reason to ask it. But I was like, man, we haven't to ask an Arch question in a hot minute since before. It's so crazy to me. It's so crazy. You don't know what it's like covering this beat, man. You don't know what it's like when I would have like national people asking me about Arch versus Quinn and Arch starting. And I had to like tell them, man, that's not on the table. And they would just be like, no, like when I'm going on one show after another and people are asking me about Arch this season, like, hey, he's probably going to end up being the third. This is months before before even training camp starts. I was like, he's probably going to be the third string guy. I would don't get your hopes up on this thing. And it's like we're halfway through. I mean, my man hasn't taken a touch. And sometimes I'm just like, man, I just said your benefit of just having, supporting local stuff, because the local people will just be so in tune with it. That's not a humble brag. It's just a hindsight and a retro thing. So he did talk about those guys, Malik and Arch, and basically said that, they continue to grow systematically, to have a real sense of understanding of what they're doing. He did point out that Arch had probably his best practice, several weeks ago. And then he said now the key is carrying that over from one practice to another. So, but, overall, and this is the thing that he did say, he's in Coach Milby's helping him develop, but he did say something that was very interesting. It just gave me a kind of a glimpse and pulled back the curtain into his mindset. He goes, they're working hard with Coach Milwee to take their game to another level because there's going to come a time, knock on wood, when their number is going to get called, and we're going to need them to play at a high level to win a football game, or rather a ball game. And I felt like that was him saying, man, I don't want anything bad to happen to my quarterback. But if it does, I got to make sure these guys are ready. Just understand the nature of the position. And look, you follow this team. I've done a history of this thing before. When you go date back to David Ash up until present day, it's been hard to find a starting quarterback at the University of Texas that went through an entire season without getting banged up at some point. So him having that understanding of that, and hell, since he's been there, he's had Casey Thompson get hurt, he's had Hudson Card get hurt, he's had Quinn Ewers get hurt. All the starting quarterbacks have gotten hurt at some point. So yeah, to him to have that the idea of that was interesting. And the last thing, just talked about the Hail Marys, which actually, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think initially that was going to provide much of a good answer. But then when it came all about, I was like, oh, actually was a pretty good answer on how they teach guys. They practice it every Friday. Did not know that. So you practice like getting out of bounds, hurry to get off a field goal kick. So that's from the offense standpoint. Then on the defensive standpoint, he talked about how they're always taught to knock the ball down. He talked about Ryan Watts being a guy who is usually be in there on that kind of Hail Mary play. But since he's kind of down right now, that Derek Williams is back there and subscribing as a guy can go get it. So yeah, it was interesting to see that. Oh snap! This Hail Mary thing is something they practice all the time. It makes all the sense of the world. But yeah, it's funny because Quinn Ewers was asked about that. He's asked if he's ever completed one, and he said no. So of course he probably won so many games lopsided that it probably was not a thing, but maybe you just had to throw him at halftime or something like that going into the half. So that was kind of it from Sark. Nothing too major, nothing too pressing as far as that's concerned, but I do have more things as relates to this press conference that I do want to talk about, more things that I do want to get into. So let's do this, Aaron. Let's do a quick break. Let's do another one. Then we come back. Well, let's get some buy or sells in here. Let's get that. Is you and I a chance to talk, a chance to catch up. It's been darn near a week since that has happened. So get your buy or sell questions in the chat. We'll talk about it. And then Joseph Duarte will be coming up at 9:20 to talk about everything Houston related. So make us smarter and more educated. So I got a fun show for you. Yeah, I see everyone starting to pile in. Come on in. Come on in to Unc's house. Me and my pinky toe or just sitting here relaxing on the porch, enjoying a good old fashioned. I'll be right back. You guys take care. Don't go anywhere.
This Orange Bloods recruiting flashback takes a look at arguably the most high-profile recruitment in the history of the Texas football program, at least until Arch Manning came along. Yes, I'm talking about former Texas quarterback Chris Sims, who was the nation's #1 ranked prospect when he came out of New Jersey in 1999. Sims took a look around all over the nation early in his recruitment, visiting the likes of Ohio State and Penn State, before eventually setting on his top two. The two UTs, Texas and Tennessee, were his two finalists. After taking an official visit to Austin in the fall of 1998, the Longhorns appeared to be poised to land Sims, which partly helped steer Eli Manning, who also visited Texas in the fall of 1998, to Ole Miss. Yet, when Sims announced his decision on December 15th on the MSG network, he picked the Vols over the Longhorns. Matt Brown later admitted that the Texas coaching staff was shocked by the news. Quote, "I'm proud to be a Vol, and it's a good place for me," Sims said upon his announcement. "I'm a big fan of Coach Fulmer, and I think it fits me right. I feel so relieved, and I can finally get back to being a high schooler and enjoying myself." Yet, the truth of the matter is that Sims wasn't really relieved about the decision, and word got around quickly that he was wavering on his commitment to the Vols almost as soon as he made the announcement. I can remember talking to a Texas source on January 1st of 1999, just before the Longhorns played Mississippi State in the Cotton Bowl, that the Longhorns were going to flip Sims away from Tennessee. A few days following the New Year's Bowl game, Sims called Texas assistant coach Tim Brewster to tell him that he was having second thoughts. Less than 3 weeks later, Sims sat down with his parents, Diana and Phil, you might have heard of him, to reevaluate the decision. The next day, he called Tennessee head coach Phil Fulmer to deliver the news. Sims said, quote, "The hardest thing I ever did in my life. The first thing he said to me was, 'Chris, I'm down here in Alabama recruiting you the best receiver in the country,' end quote." One day later, Sims made things official by flipping his commitment to the Longhorns, which helped cement a #1 overall recruiting class for Brown and his coaching staff. It proved to be a game changer for the Longhorns, as evidenced by the commitment of the big 3 wide receivers in the following recruiting class: B.J. Johnson, Roy Williams, and Sloan Thomas, as well as paving the way for Cedric Benson's commitment to the Longhorns in the 2001 recruiting class. Ultimately, it was one of the great recruiting moments in the history of the Texas football program.
Chris Sims, who I covered as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Yep, I remember when Chris got drafted over there. I was covering the team. Talking about starting to get old. I covered him during his tenure there. He used to frustrate the hell out of John Gruden, man. John would be frustrated by him. It was also at the game when he got hurt. I think it was a spleen or something like that ruptured or something like that during the game. But he had to have surgery, emergency surgery after that. It was really bad. So, but yes, very familiar with Chris. Real nice guy. Real nice guy. I enjoy covering him, though. I know you guys have a complicated relationship with Chris Sims. I understand. He was always good. He was always good to me in Tampa. So that's why I know him as, more so than anything here related. But hopefully at one point, hopefully that bridge gets I don't know what's the word, rebuilt, mended, fences get mended. Maybe the fences get mended, something like that. The fences get mended. Hopefully time will go by and that thing will kind of fade, and all that little bitterness and hostility and all that stuff that Chris has and things that have happened to him in the past. Hopefully that'll just be a thing in the past, let go, and one day come back to Austin or something and go to a game, something like that. It'd be nice. Life's too short. It's too short for some of that crap, All right, listen. Buy or sell? It's been a while. Like I said, it's been a week since we had the chance to do it. And I love buy or sell because it's my chance to not only answer your questions, which I enjoy doing, but I also get a chance to kind of get a gauge where your head's at. And you'd be surprised that actually how that helps me in some of my thought processes. So I really enjoy this, and I really, really enjoy hearing from you guys when we do buy or sell. So I just want to let you know that it's not just me giving to you, but you guys actually asking questions actually gives something to me in return. So I just want to tell you how much I appreciate it. Sandman 23, Exit Life, Enter Night, Jim buy or sell. Jimbo Fisher will coach against Texas in 2024. I'll buy on that one. Now ask me if he'll do it in 2025. Because I don't think they'll pull the cord on him after this season. The buyout's still pretty high. But when Texas gets into the SEC, if Texas is having success in the SEC, better success than Texas A&M, winning more games than Texas A&M, where they can look at it. So, because here's the thing. When Texas gets in, and if they're able to go and prove, like, man, this ain't as hard as A&M is making it look. Look at what we're able to do. If that happens, then all of a sudden A&M is going to say, all right, well, now we're done. So I'm not convinced that he'll be there in 2025. That's my thing. You guys are asking who you replace him with. I mean, Jeff Traylor makes all the sense in the world, of course. You Texas guy, UTSA, so on and so forth. Like, I mean, He makes a lot of sense. And I think if I was A&M and I was still on the hook for that salary, like I'm on the hook for the salary, like the last thing I want to do is overpay again. So like Jeff Traylor is a guy that you look at and you say, okay, that's a guy. And I think he's also a guy to me, if you're Texas A&M, that you say to yourself, okay, he's a Texas guy. I know he can recruit in the state. He's got the connections in the state. You know, he understands the success. I think the Boosters is a guy they can rally and get behind. I think he's a good coach. So I'll be down with Traylor. I mean, I'd be down. And I say that as a guy, full disclosure, who knows Coach Traylor. And got a chance to know him here when he was here. Well, hell, when he was a high school coach, got a chance to know him here. You know, great success at Gilmer. Obviously, great success at here at Texas and then throughout. So he's a guy that I would look at if I'm A&M, and in 2 years from now, I'm looking at whatever his little buyout is, and I'm saying, man, you're over here, and don't overspend. And by the way, I'll just say this. That's what I'm going to say on this is I think boosters need to really start understanding that there's no need to overspend for coaches anymore. You got to spend on talent. Look at USC. You got your money is got to be going into the NIL stuff, and you got to spend on that. You don't need to give a coach $100 million. I know Sark is like, the hell you don't. I'm sorry, Sark. If you're watching this right now, you deserve $100 million. Okay, I'm talking about everybody else. I ain't talking about you. There's no need to pay a coach that much money. There really is no. What are you really getting for that? Like, how do you quantify any of that stuff? You can't. You can't do that. So I wouldn't overspend, and I think Jeff Traylor would be the perfect, like, hey, you're not going to overspend. He's a Texas guy. He could go in there. He could have success at A&M. He bring in a good staff. That's one thing Jimbo doesn't do really well. Jimbo doesn't really hire well as far as his staff is concerned. I know it's going to piss off a lot of his staff members. I don't care. But how many of those guys have you seen in Jimbo's tenure, especially here at Texas A&M? Like, how many of those guys have been promoted, to become coordinators? And how many of those guys have been hired away to become head coaches? My Tony Dungy rule, the sign of a healthy staff is what Coach Dungy told me years ago. Sign of a healthy staff is when assistant coaches are being talked about and hired and promoted to be coordinators, and when coordinators are being hired and promoted to become head coaches. And you don't see that on Jimbo's staff. So there you go. That I think Traylor would do a lot better job. That's just my opinion. Okay, dude, buy or sell Kylie Davis. Cool. That's a cool name. I like that. It's a cool name. You got a cool name, Kylie. I like that. If I had another kid, I might do a Kylie. No, that's a unique spelling. I can't have any others. So that's a miracle from the Lord. It's going to be a hell of a lawsuit against the people that are supposed to have done my surgery. But I like that name, Kylie. Buy or sell. Quinn gets hurt. We are in big trouble. Bye. Yep. Big old trouble. Absolutely. Because, being a quarterback and playing at a high level is just not that easy. Think about this. Think about this. Like, think about the NFL. Let's go there for a second. Think about the NFL and the number of quarterbacks in the NFL that you would consider to be elite, right? There's probably only a small handful of quarterbacks that you would consider to be elite. Then there's kind of that tier below that, which is just kind of good, serviceable kind of quarterbacks, right? So you got like Patrick Mahomes, the Buffalo quarterback, like those are the kind of guys that you consider to be elite. I don't necessarily put like Justin Herbert at elite yet. Very good. I think he's like the notch below. So there's that middle section there where you have some really good quarterbacks. And then you just have a bunch of other guys. You just have guys. You just got your Baker Mayfields of the world, and yeah, CJ Stroud's looking pretty elite, at this moment. But you got him, you got the guy from Chicago. You've just got guys that are just kind of filling in, that are just kind of muddling their way through, right? You better put some respect on Charles Wright's name. I saw that, Blake. You better put some respect on Charles Wright's name. Got Charles Wright. By the way, those signals aren't getting called in by themselves. Who is on the headset signaling to Quinn? Charles Wright. Damn right. Anyway, so you got to think it's not that easy to just say to yourself, okay, I'm just going to have a quarterback. That kind of feels so. It's not that easy. And then to think to yourself, oh well, if Quinn got hurt, Archer or Malik could go in there, or it would be Malik, but Malik could go in there and do exactly what Quinn does. I mean, maybe that's your best case scenario, but the Caleb Williamses of the world, there's a reason why those are like first round picks. That's a first round pick. Everybody else is using quarterbacks that got to kind of find their way through it. So yeah, man, you don't want that. You don't want those problems. And think about people, who thought to themselves, again, the other year, Kylie, think about this. All the talk about Hudson Card. Think about the Hudson Card Quinn Ewers debate from last year, right? And people thought to themselves, man, there was a Hudson. There were people who were riding for Hudson, like riding for him hard, right? Same people who rode for him versus the Casey Thompson debate, right? There were the Hudson Card truthers who was like, that guy is going to be the guy. He's the guy that in practice, he throws like Aaron Rodgers. Like, I've heard all the stuff about the Hudson Card stuff. And when Hudson Card has gotten his opportunity in college, Hudson Card has been as about average to below average as you can be. Just a shoulder shrug of a quarterback. This is what it is, right? And you think about what that offense looked like when Hudson Card had to play last year. Like pretty non-existent. So it's there'll be growing pains from those quarterbacks. You want Quinn to stay healthy, and just be honest with you. And yeah, Hudson is infuriating to watch. If you think he was infuriating to watch at Texas, think about what he's probably like for Purdue fans. I can't imagine how thrilled they are at this moment, because that's just that times two. Just do some more. Buy or sell. Oh man, it's past 9 o'clock. Joseph Duarte is going to be in the house pretty soon. I'm gonna make sure I text and let him know he got the link. And I sure hope I sent him the right one. Me and links. Ain't no telling what I said to him. Thank gosh. I don't really do all that crazy stuff, because I'd be sending people the wrong ones. You know what I'm talking about. Let me tell you, sent you the link to your. I'm just sending him. I'm just sending him sending the right one. Okay, Darian. Good morning to you. It's always good to see you, man. And if I see you, obviously, I just mean your words, but I know you're here, so I appreciate that. But Darian BT, I don't know what the BT stands for. Buy or sell. Houston will be business as usual with a slow first half and pull away in the fourth quarter. I'll sell on that one. I'm gonna sell on that one. I know that Texas has played some teams that aren't as good, but Baylor, they started good against Baylor, Darian. Like, they started good against Baylor. They had 28 points against Baylor. I don't necessarily feel like they were off to those slowest of starts versus Oklahoma. So no, I think they'll be okay. I now clearly they've played better in the second half, but I don't think it's going to be that slow, because I don't think the defense is going to struggle that way. So I think the defense will finally, be able to set up and things to that effect. So yeah, I'm going to sell on that one, Darian. I think Texas goes out and handles their business against Houston. That's my belief, but we shall see how that goes. But my belief is that when it's all said and done, they've got this. So I'm going to I'm going to sell on that one, Darian, and hope like hell I'm right when it's all said and done. Let's go ahead and go into Blake May says Hudson Card is the best 6-year senior QB2 in the country. Golly, Blake. You went hard, Blake May. Good. Blake May went hard in the Specs chat line. My goodness. He just woke up with feeling just anger. I like it. I like it. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with some of that. My goodness, Blake. Ooh, don't be on your bad side. Speaking of Blake's, let's go to Blake Winfrey. My man, Blake Winfrey. Buy or sell. Texas doesn't become bowl eligible this season. I'm going to buy on that one, Blake. I'm going to buy on that one. Aaron, what do they have? Do they have like 2 or 3 wins right now? I don't think they have more. I think they may be at the 3-win mark. Yeah, they're 3-win. They still got BYU, TCU. So BYU, probably a loss. It's at BYU. TCU is probably a loss. At KU is a loss. UCF might be a win. And then at Texas. Yeah, man. That's I see nothing but L's in the future. I can see maybe I don't see it. I don't see it. Not the way this team is playing. I would love just to sit down with Micah Hudson and have a conversation with him and just, man, why? I just want to know why. What is it about this school that has a hold on you? Please tell me, because you can't love Lubbock that much. I don't know what it is. What is it? What is her name? Is it that? Like, you can get her to go to any school in the. I guarantee you, if it's what's her name, that they can make sure they can get her into whatever school that you want to go to when it's all said and done. Like, I'm fascinated by it. I'm really fascinated by it. But nah, I don't think Tech becomes bowl eligible. And I like Joey McGuire. I told you I know Coach McGuire as well. I hope he's still cool. I haven't said anything disrespectful to him, but I hope he's still cool. I have to reach out to him after the season to make sure that we're still cool. But nah, man, Coach McGuire, like, he's gonna have to tighten up if he wants to keep that job over the next few years. So I don't see them becoming bowl eligible, Blake. I don't see it, and I don't know how that thing ends positively for them. So coach is a good guy, but that's kind of one of those things, man. But it's that when the old folks say make your words sweet just in case you have to eat them. When you start saying that the whole thing runs through Lubbock and the Big 12 runs through Lubbock, these are just things that kind of come back and bite you in the ass sometimes. So sometimes it's just best not to say anything. But it said it to your team, but you knew the cameras are there. So it is what it is. You got to own it at that point. It is what it is. Nonetheless, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Dale Coleman in the house. Buy or sell, Anwar. All right. Buy or sell. Anwar will catch up with me next time he's in San Antonio. We don't have a Roosevelt room, but we do have a Green Lantern in Stone Oak. Let me all right, Dale. First of all, Dale, all right, listen. Okay, it's clear that you guys have figured out. I'm gonna go old school references. It's clear that you guys figured out I got a little honey dip down there in San Antonio. I go down there too. So the next time I'm in San Antonio will be probably on one nighter, but maybe the weekend after that, Dale. We might be able to do a little something. You have to email me. So Dale, email me at Anwar@orangebloods.com. And if you're able to do that, like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to make that thing work and get that going for you. Let's do another one. As Joseph sets up, I'm not going to keep this man waiting. He's a very busy person. So if he's got the time, so I'll let him set up. I'm going to ask Texas Man is in the house. Texas Man, I haven't necessarily seen you post before, but it's really good to see that one. Buy or sell, Jonathan Brooks leaves for the NFL draft after this season. Buy. Listen, if I was advising Jonathan Brooks, here's what I would tell him. Your stock is incredibly high. You're probably a 1,000-yard rusher. And the best thing, Texas Man, that Jonathan Brooks has on him that's going to be a selling point to NFL teams is that he doesn't have a lot of miles. Like if you're a running back who can perform and you don't have a lot of miles on you, they will love you. Trust me. They don't want a guy who's been playing for 4 years and has been banged up. They want a guy who's got 1 or 2 years in college and had a couple of good seasons and then go afterwards. Yes. And if you're Jonathan Brooks, you don't come back and risk getting hurt. You don't come back and risk being in a time share with CJ Baxter. You don't do any of that. You cash out. It's like going to Vegas. I go to Vegas, when the times I've gone to Vegas, haven't been in years, and I'm not a huge player. I'm not on anyone's card table. I'm not trying to lose that money. A couple of things I've never seen go out of business. Never seen a casino go out of business, and I've never seen a McDonald's go out of business. Those people, for some odd reason, they've got a formula for success. And I just don't see them just close. Like, man, we don't know how to make money. They know how to make money. And so as it relates to Jonathan Brooks, I would cash out. I would cash out right now and say to yourself, get out while the getting is good. You're probably going to be a second-round pick more than likely. Go ahead and get your money. Don't come back. Leave college for somebody else. All right, let's do this. And I know I promised you he'd come at 9:20, but if he's coming early, then we will accommodate him as it is. Let's go to the Speakeasy Lounge and bring in, man, I would say, I don't know if I would call him he's got to be one of the OGs in this industry at this moment. And he's got to be, he's shaking his head no, but he is, I like humble people, but in this dying age of journalism, he is kind of like that bastion of a ray of sunshine that you get to see out there. People just do things the right way. So let's go in the Speakeasy Lounge and let's bring in Joseph Duarte without further ado. Good morning, Joseph. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Anwar. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Let me tell you, it's so as an old newspaper guy, worked at the Tampa Tribune for many years, starting in the 90s and stuff like that. And I've seen how all things have changed and things to that effect. And I know obviously you've had to be adjust to the times. I still appreciate people who just do things the old school way, reporting accurately, taking pride in their craft, taking pride in their writing, taking pride in their reporting. So I honestly, while I don't get a chance to talk to you directly, I see you from afar, and I just want to tell you, I respect your work and respect the things that you do because you do things the right way.
Well, I appreciate it. And, quick fun story, since I used to cover the Texas beat from 05 to 09. So my first year, it's the national championship year. And Vince Young's from Houston. So if you're the Houston Chronicle, you need to get to know Vince Young pretty well, pretty fast. And I took him to lunch with the sports information office at Papado's off of 35 going out towards, I guess, where Highland Mall used to be. So we're doing that. And this is before the internet, man. I mean, the internet's not a big deal. Twitter's not around.
Yeah.
And, I'm just working Vince the whole year, just trying to make sure that I'm on top of stuff. And, we get towards the end and we're in New York. He doesn't win the Heisman. He's upset. You could just see that day you knew Texas was going to go in there and do something to USC in that championship game. But it was just, I followed Vince around the whole year. We went to the Home Depot Awards show in Florida. I walked in late for my flight and he stops his press conference and says, "Hey, man, you following me around?" Everybody thought Vince had a stalker. And I'm his local beat guy from Houston. So Vince treated me well, but the day that he decided to declare, it's about 4 a.m. in the morning, and I get a phone call, not a text. I mean, we were not texting back then. And I'm like, hey, Vince is about to go tell his church in a couple of hours, and his pastor's going to ask for prayer. He's going to declare. So, we only put special stuff on the web because we just didn't have that capability. But we got the story out there. I was living in Houston, driving back and forth. I got in the car, had to rush to Austin for the press conference. But those were the fun days, man. This is before Longhorn Network. This is before all the crazy Tom Herman stuff. It was a good time to cover Texas. And the next year, of course, Colt came in, and they did pretty well then too. But that was just I wanted to introduce myself to your listeners and your viewers, because the Texas beat was very near and dear to me. I went to Texas, obviously, but it was just a good time. And then, not to mention, Kevin Durant was about to step on campus, so I had to.
It sounds like you're the good luck charm. You need to come back on this beat, man.
KD, that was crazy for a season. Didn't know he had that girlfriend that apparently came out on The Bachelorette a few years later, but we were at Allen Fieldhouse when they played that game, and I remember his one of his only tournament games. We were out in Spokane, I believe, where they played Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it was a wild time back in those days. Hard to believe it's been I guess 18 years.
18 years since that time. Now, did you see Vince play in high school at all?
Only on a random Saturday that I would just pick up and go to the Dome or something. That Austin Westlake game is epic. He played at Madison High School. But Vince, I mean, he's still around. And in fact, in a few hours, I'm going to see Vince up here in Houston for an autograph signing that he's going to be at with Andre Ware this afternoon.
Sure.
But I mean, anybody in town who's been in sports at some point has come across a very young Vince Young, and to see him pushing, I guess what is he close to now? 40 or over that? Makes you feel really old.
I mean, tell me just real quick, what was it like watching him play and covering him? Because at that time I was in Florida, so I'd watch it from afar. But what was it like? What was the stadium like? I mean, I'm kind of to take us behind the scenes as like what that whole thing was like covering that kind of an athlete.
This is a person who could change the direction of a game, in a snap. I remember we were in Oklahoma State that 05 year. I believe they were down maybe 21 at halftime, maybe even 28, and they come out on fire in the second half. Vince rolls to his right on a play and jukes an Oklahoma State defender so bad. The guy's like in the air and his legs are spread. I mean, Vince just did a number on him. Heads to that sideline right in front. I believe maybe that was the Oklahoma State sideline. No, it was the Texas sideline actually, and just goes straight up the field for like an 80-yard touchdown. And that was sort of the dynamics that you could see Vince turn on. And that's not even counting the national championship game. That game is a complete blur to me. I was on deadline. You're watching this incredible comeback, and it's fourth down and what is it, 4th and 5? And he finds that block and gets to the corner of the end zone, and then the confetti starts to rain. I mean, he was a special player. I really think that some of the things that happened later on, Steve McNair, for instance, it just took a toll on him, and we didn't get to see the greatness that I think Vince could have become in the NFL. But as far as a high school and a college player, there are none that were more special than what Vince Young did. And he could again, and he also, people gave him a bad rap that he couldn't pass the ball. He was a great athlete, he was a great runner, but he had some games that he could do stuff with his arm. And that 05 Texas season, go look up that Colorado Big 12 championship game here in Houston, 70-3. That a lot of that was Vince, and he was gone by the fourth, really by the end of their third quarter.
Joseph, so since then, since obviously you were the good luck charm and you left, and so really that's kind of seems to be what's happened. So since 2009, though, that Texas has had one 10-win season, double-digit win season, which was in 2018. You covered all these great years, and you covered it at a time where 10 wins would be like everyone would look at Mac Brown like, that's it? That's all you got? And so what do you think, and it's been years, I don't know if you had any theories or not, what do you think happened from 2009 up until present day, to the Texas Longhorns, that from the going to that glory to just being kind of a program trying to find itself?
Well, I removed myself a lot because I ended up on other beats, so I didn't track it as more. But I will tell you that the years that I cover them, you didn't have to hear Texas say we're back because they never left. They were that good. They had those 11 and 12 win seasons. Mac was taking them to bowls. Now remember, Mac did have that run where I believe everybody made the joke that it was always the Holiday Bowl. That was the Mac Bowl, and so that it wasn't always great, but they had years, the 5 season, and then when they got back to play Alabama and Colts year when he got hurt. I think, bluntly, I think Texas got in its way. I mean, I think for them as a program, there's no surprises or any type of, Texas has always been one of those, I don't want to use the word arrogant, but they've sort of been the entitled one where you can go out and you can get the best players. And I've seen them get the best players and it just hasn't worked out. And then you look at, I cover Tom Herman here in Houston, and I thought him leaving, they could have built a statue of the guy here if he had stayed and, the run that they had, but that was his dream job. And that experiment didn't work. And then you look at some of the athletic director hires before CDC and, the Patterson days. I mean, Texas has gotten in its way a lot more than it should have, and it stopped. I'm still not on that group that thought that Mac should have left. I thought Mac got a raw deal, and I thought that Mac still had. You look at Mac. Mac's got a lot of years left in it. We're seeing it in North Carolina. So I just think a combination, Anwar, of things that just didn't play out for them. It was the wrong timing, wrong circumstances. Because Texas can be good. Texas should be good every year with the level of talent that they have. And I'm afraid to say that next year when they get into the SEC and they've seen it in the Big 12, it's going to be a tough go. But this is a program that should perennially every year be contending for conference championships. And and at worst, New Year's Six bowls.
Yeah, no, I absolutely hear you. Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle in the house. Joseph, I'm kind of curious with you. Give us kind of what's happened with this Houston program, because you bring up Tom Herman, right? And at that point, I mean, Tom Herman had it cooking in Houston. We saw the FSU game. We saw what he was able to do against a Lamar Jackson, from Louisville at one point. So we saw that they could dial it in. And we knew he if it was a big game, he was going to have that team ready. He obviously, like you said, he leaves, he comes here to Texas. He has success. He's good at Texas, but you're hired to be great at Texas. And so there is a difference, as far as concerned. Right. After he left, what has kind of happened with the program that kind of brings us to where we are present day?
Well, after he left and the way he left a lot of people bitter. The story is that when they got back from the last game of the season and 16, the regular season against Memphis, he flipped his rental car keys to somebody and basically told him, "Hey, I'm gone." So that didn't go well with the donors in terms of they thought that they had a guy that would be here for the long haul. They gave him a chance out of Ohio State, but when he left, man, the transition's been really rough. They went into the Major Applewhite era, and you've been around Major, Major. He's the complete opposite of Tom Herman. He's not a salesman. He's not a rah-rah, pitch man. And, they had 8-win seasons and typically that would be okay. But then on the other side of campus, you have a school president who goes on the record and says, we fire coaches that go 8-4. So people kind of started to hold her a little bit to that.
Yeah.
And then when around the end of the 18 season, we're in Fort Worth for the Armed Forces Bowl, and Army just blows them out. I think it was 70-14, close to 400 or 500 yards rushing. And, Major thought he was coming back. I'm standing in the hallway with him. He's like, yeah, I think I'll get a third year. Like 2 days later, they get rid of him. And in fact, they had already started the process of switching coaches at that point, and he didn't even know it. So, you fast forward a couple of weeks and they go get Dana Holgorsen. And at that point, you didn't see any sitting Power 5 coaches that were going to leave for a group of 5. He had no guarantees that Houston was going to get into the Big 12 or any power conference. And that's sort of where this university has come from. It's been about a 30-year wait from the Southwest Conference through the Conference USA, through the American. when were they going to get into the Big 12? 2016, there was that interview process. None of the schools got in. And Dana took a chance. He thought that this might be the opportunity. Plus, he had some history here. And I think he also wanted to get out of Morgantown. And so you have all those factors. And then 2 years ago in September, they got the call, and it sort of has accelerated things because it's been a long process in terms of facilities, building stuff. And then, the basketball program sort of been the anchor of things here with Kelvin Sampson. So they finally got things in order. But I'd say from, that 16 to 21 window, it was really, really uncertain for what direction this school would go to.
And so that brings us to the present day. I can't figure out this team when I look at it. And, I've been able to watch a couple of games. The loss against Rice in 2 overtimes happens, and you would think to yourself, that should be a tune-up game, for a program like Houston. So losing that one seemed to be like, okay, is this the death blow? You expect TCU to kind of happen. Lose against a Tech, that's fine. Even though I'm not quite sure Tech's that good this season. And then last week happens, with West Virginia. I don't know. Like, it's a coin flip for me. If it's a coin flip for me, you're the guy who covers the team. What's it like for you? And what do you make out of this year's team?
Well, it's a roller coaster, and any season with Dana Holgerson's a roller coaster in terms of what you're going to see and what you're going to hear. The Rice game was really the timing of it, because that was the week before the TCU Big 12 debut and all the excitement, and you could tell it just sucked the air and the life out of things. There wasn't as much excitement. The focus started to turn to, will they get rid of Dana Holgerson? How much can they pay on the buyout? That kind of stuff. But this has been a tricky team to sort of figure out. Offensively, they bring in Donovan Smith from Texas Tech. Yeah. And, Longhorn fans probably know him well. He led that win last year against Texas. So they get a veteran quarterback to replace Clayton Tune, who was a 10,000-yard passer. They don't have Tank Dell, their All-American receiver who's playing for the Texans now. So they had a lot of holes to fill. So they've sort of pieced things together, transfer portal. They've had some developmental guys that have come in and stepped up into big roles. Like, Matthew Golden was a highly rated recruit. So you get those pieces in place and you think, okay, they can be serviceable on offense. The defense has just been terrible the last couple of years. They pride themselves on being sack avenue, but there's no sacks. So I don't know if the neighborhood is abandoned now or what, but you have the difficulties on making stops. I went back and looked. I think it's been 5 or 6 down to the last 30-second type situations since Dana's been here that they've given up a big touchdown in the last seconds to lose a game when they were winning. Wow. So, I mean, they just can't stop anybody. And that's sort of where they're at, because they've had 2 years to develop the roster. They did a lot of it through transfer portal. He keeps saying that they need Big 12 bodies. Well, they don't have those Big 12 bodies yet, and I think they're still a ways off to get them. And they're learning the hard way, because without those second and third teams that are quality, they got worn out in both games. So that was the biggest change in West Virginia. They didn't get worn out. They actually played 4 quarters. They put up some points. And, even though the defense gave up that big one there that required the Hail Mary, they made a few plays that at least gave them a chance in the end.
Yeah, I mean that's the question. Like when you go back to that game, it ends up being, like you said, you get the Hail Mary, so you get the win, but and you got to take any team's got to take the win any way you can get it. But does it give you does that confidence going forward? Because that's not a formula for long-term success, is winning by Hail Marys, right? I mean, that's a 1 in whatever percentage chance of going forward. Right. What do you think of them over the next next, what is it, 6 games that they have? And because we're talking about Texas, at K-State, Baylor, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, and of course UCF. I mean, is this a bowl eligible team in your point of view?
Boy, that's going to be tough. I think Vegas had them between 4 and 5 to begin the year. But you're right. Well, first of all, yeah, those Hail Marys, I hadn't seen one in my 12 years covering this program. And then you look at sort of, Dana's not an air raid guy anymore. So anybody who might think that, I mean, he's not. He tries to be a very balanced sort of a pro style. I mean, he wants to run the ball. So, this is a different Dana from the first time he was at Houston, and certainly one that's probably a lot different from when he last played Texas in 18. But as far as the schedule and where they go, they get through Texas and Kansas State. Let's just say they lose both of those games. The November schedule gets a little bit more manageable. They have Baylor, they have Cincinnati, they have Oklahoma State, and then they have Central Florida. So you look at 3 of those 4 that you may have a chance. That Rice game is where it's going to hurt them. If they're at 4-2 right now, getting 2 wins out of that mix is a lot easier than being 3-3 and having getting 3. The AD here, Chris Pesman, said it was going to be a transition period. That 6-6 was the goal. Get to a bowl and build from there. They're going to be on that fringe, Anwar, and I still think this is a 4 or 5 win team. But after watching what they did against West Virginia, maybe there's a game in that November stretch that they can steal and get that last win to get bowl eligibility.
Joseph, let me ask you 2 more, and I'll let you go. So, if they're firing coaches that win 8 games, if a coach wins 4 games, I mean that seems like that adds up to hot seat. If my math is correct, if a coach wins half of what the expectation is, what is Holgorsen's hot seat kind of looking like right now? And I'm curious, how important is this game for him this upcoming weekend?
Does your show have one of those buttons for like when you bleep? Just for the
no, you can say whatever you want to say. You can curse. You go. There's no earmuffs. Most of the kids are at school by now, so you're good to go.
Dana, a good friend of mine, Sam Conn at The Athletic, Dana had a nice sit down with him in the offseason, and there's no blanking hot seat. There's not going to be any blanking firings. Forget my blanking buyout. I mean, he was pretty adamant that there is no hot seat. Now, his buyout is about $14 million. If you're Texas, you just go down the hallway and somebody writes a check and you guys are, you guys are gold. Y'all are printing money over there. But at Houston, you got to dig through the sofa. You got to find that loose change. You got to go to the car and the cigarette lighter and pull out the thing and find a few quarters and pennies. And, it just doesn't happen as much. And that's the issue that they are in. His contract got an extension a few years ago based on them getting into the Big 12. That was in the contract. If they got in, he got a new deal. So that's where everything sort of extended further out to 2027. Wow. And, honestly, his contract, he should be on the hot seat. One game, and even the way they won against West Virginia it gives you a reprieve. It doesn't necessarily get you back, into the clear. And I think that it's very much still TBA on him or TBD on what happens. If they go 4-8, I could see Houston making a change, and that's sort of where they have gotten in this program, where if they didn't have coaches like Kevin Sumlin, Art Browse, and Tom Herman jumping for other jobs, they've had the Major Applewhites and the Tony Levine that they get rid of after 2 and 3 years. Now, Dana's lasted 5, which is, in this part is a long time, but they certainly, find themselves, if they have to maybe make a move, I guess maybe you do it now early in your Big 12 tenure than if you wait a few more years to see if this thing turns around.
Last question I ask you, Joseph, and I'll let you go. Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle. I know it's early in the week, and so I know it's from a matchup standpoint. You have more work, and that's probably the latter part for the week. But just from an early thought process, how does Houston match up, offensively and defensively against Texas? I'm assuming maybe you watched Texas versus Bama earlier this year. You maybe caught Red River. I'm just curious, what do you think early wise? From a matchup, just kind of off the top of your head, how does Houston fare against this Texas team?
I think Fox, when Houston's on defense, needs to put that viewer discretion advised, because Houston's defense against, you just look at the numbers, and I know it's coach speak, and Dave's saying they're good here, they're talented here. It's not a lie. I mean, you look at the roster. Houston has had trouble stopping the run. So there's Jonathan Brooks. They've had trouble with matchup problems at receiver. There's Xavier and there's Mitchell. They've had trouble with tight ends. I mean, and then you're not even talking about the trenches, then the size disadvantage that they're going to be at. So that's one. And then you look on the other side, I'm a little bit more comfortable with them, at least in certain elements of the offense, because I think that they can generate some points. They're not going to have a 40-point West Virginia game. This is not going to be one of those type of shootouts. But I think they can score some points. Where they get killed is how much of a pounding is that Texas defensive line going to bring, because they typically go 5 men on the offensive line. Don't do a lot of substitution. The left guard's familiar with Texas, Tyler Johnson. He was there as a reserve in Austin. Their best player is the left tackle. He's got a chance to be a day one NFL guy, Patrick Paul, about 6'7", 320 something. So, I mean, he's a load. But, and we're just early on here in the week, just looking at it, I think this is one of those, name your score games for Texas and a get right game, because they're going to come out motivated from the State Fair game. And, I don't see Texas having another, roadblock until, the Big 12 championship game. I think we see a rematch in first week of December between Texas and Oklahoma.
Joseph, tell everybody how they can follow you on Twitter. I know it's really easy you like me, you made it real easy for everybody, but tell everyone how they can follow you and the good stuff that you do over there in Houston.
I'm on Twitter, just my name, Joseph_Duarte. It's HoustonChronicle.com. I'll throw out free links on the stuff this week. I just want a good game. It's always fun when Texas comes to town for any sport. It's been 20 years. And they're not expecting this to happen again, probably for another 20 years. So, and Texas fans should know there's no temporary bleacher seating this week at TDCU for the ones that are old enough to remember Bleachergate. If you're not old enough, go look up 2001 and Robertson Stadium. You might get a laugh if you're a Texas fan. If you're older, you probably won't be laughing. But there's 40,000 seats, and I'm probably going to guess that about 65% are going to be burnt orange and white this weekend.
Well, my producer Aaron's is in his 20s, so I'm sure right now he's looking that thing up. Yeah. And he'll probably have something on the screen for us later so we can see exactly what you're talking about. Joseph, I absolutely appreciate your time. I know you're very busy, so I appreciate you, and I'll see you on Saturday.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, take care. Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle, one of those, I'd say, old school writers that, like I said, as a former newspaper guy, I got some still newspaper at my heart. I still got some of the stuff from when I was in the newspaper out here. So Joseph Duarte is in there. Aaron, go ahead and put the graphic up. Go ahead and put it up. Put the drink graphic up. Yep. Shot. Everybody. Shot. Everybody. I told ya. He was good though. Joseph Duarte. Hey, man, it just is what it is. Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world, baby. Hey, but that was good information. Really appreciate him coming on. No, I was seriously, like, all jokes aside, he's really really busy. Really busy guy. He's got a lot going on. Like I say, he's got a lot of people who are hitting him up. He doesn't have a lot of time to do a lot of different interviews. So nonetheless, I appreciate Joseph Duarte. If you missed any portion of this, and Lewis Gaines, I know you said you missed some of it as well. Feel free to go back and check the replay of it. I'm sure we'll extract this thing at some point and have this thing as a separate that's out there. But that's out. And by the way, Texas guy, what pain meds I get to retire? I didn't take any. My pain tolerance is pretty good, so I don't necessarily want that. I was kind of thrown off by Catch saying, like, if you can use your pet's pain meds to take that. I thought, I'm still kind of trying to process that whole thing, but nonetheless, that happened. So all right, let's do this, and then we're going to have Jason Suchomel coming in at 10:20. So that's the next 40 minutes. When we come back, let's we didn't get too hard into buy or sell. So I kind of had to interrupt buy or sell for Joseph because I wanted to make sure I was respectful of his time. So I'll finish up buy or sell I got a lot to say about something to prove before Jason Suchomel gets in here. I've also got social media standouts that I want to get to as well. I got a lot of show left, so hang in there. I didn't take pain meds, but I did take this, and that might have something to do with my hyperness. I probably need to get off this energy stuff. Like, I'm probably just gonna be one day, just my heart explode, or knock on wood, on this damn show. I probably need to get a B12 shot. Have you guys anybody ever done a B12 shot and what that's like? Is that a little bit better as far as getting your energy? I'm kind of curious about that. I've seen those things out there. What did Uriel say? I almost unsubbed after Catch said that, shaking my head. Yeah, Uriel, well, thank you for not unsubbing. But it was a weird comment. I've never heard of such a thing. I've never heard of I was like, that's next level. You want to know why there's an opioid crisis out there. That'd be a reason why. Let's do a quick break. And then after that, we'll come back. I'll do some more buy or sell. Got some more stuff that I want to get into. I got social media standouts. I got a lot to get into. Not enough show to get into it. So let's come back. Stay with me. I'll be right back.
Corey Redding, the linebacker from Galena Park, North Shore High School, USA Today rated him as the best high school defensive player in the nation. That's incredible. Today, he verbally committed to play his college ball for Max Brown and the Horns. He's the kind of defensive difference maker the Texans hadn't been able to get in years past, so it appears things are changing.
This Orange Bloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the most important recruiting wins in the history of the Texas program. Former five-star defensive end Corey Redding out of Galena Park, North Shore. To completely understand the significance of Redding's commitment, you have to understand the context surrounding the recruitment. Redding's recruitment occurred just 2 years after another five-star defensive end, David Warren, bypassed the Longhorns in favor of Florida State. New Texas head coach Mack Brown was trying to put the finishing touches on a number one ranked recruiting class, but he had to overcome the stigma that great defensive players didn't go to Texas and that the Longhorns couldn't go into the Houston area and land a truly elite player that didn't play his football in the suburbs. It wasn't going to be easy for the Longhorns, as Redding's top three included Colorado and Arizona, with the Wildcats having a big edge with Corey's brother Chris already in the Arizona program, which had his mom wanting both players to play their college careers together. Colorado was actually viewed as a potential party spoiler, but while Redding was on his official visit to Boulder, CU head coach Rick Neuheisel took the Washington job. And that basically eliminated the Buffs. That left Arizona and Texas to duke it out. And when push came to shove, Redding couldn't leave the Lone Star State. Moments before he announced his decision, Redding informed his mom that he was selecting the Longhorns. He told her, quote, "I'm a Texas boy. I want to go to college in Texas, marry a Texas woman, and have Texas babies," while she broke down in tears at the news. Moments later, he told the world the news.
Corey Redding, in 1998 9-9 season, will be attending the University of Texas.
Redding's commitment sent shockwaves throughout the recruiting landscape as Mack Brown's dominance in recruiting in Texas began that day and rarely slowed down for the next decade and a half. The Longhorns finished with the number one overall recruiting class in 1999, with the USA Today's Defensive Player of the Year representing the cherry on top of a very tasty sundae.
Spent time with him and myself, and I was like, I want you to put it on my mind the next morning when I wake up. When I woke up, my hands was holding up that hook sign.
All right, welcome back. I appreciate Joseph Duarte doing that thing, coming in here. You're right, Louis Gans, hit that like button. Hit that thing. Hit that like. It means something. It means it's supposed to mean something to some sort of algorithm, to something to that carry the one is supposed to mean something. I don't know. But if you hit like, and I know if you hit like and you hit subscribe, it helps with something with the show. So it helps with the YouTube's other thingy or whatever. So please hit like. I appreciate it. And by the way, now you guys are back real quick. I want to make sure I take care of something else, which is specs. Yes, it's time for specs, man. Look, it's Tuesday. You're feeling good, back in the saddle. We're all kind of feeling ourselves, enjoying ourselves, everything like that. And Specs has got you covered absolutely day in and day out for some of the lowest prices and get that thing delivered to you. Whatever you're looking for a little wine, got a little date going on or something like that. By the way, I do my own promo. there's a promo that I was supposed to read that I never do. It is what it is because it's Specs. I can speak on Specs. All right, whatever it is, they got the lowest prices for you. They got the best selection for you. They got some delivery for you. Whatever it is, and whatever you want, what it is, whether it's date night, whether it's sports night, wherever it is, you gotta go to Specs. Check them out. Check out their ad right here. It's Specs.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
All right. Let's do some more buy or sell. I'll get some more buy or sell in here. Buy, sell. Barry Sorrell back in the house. Yeah. You joined us late on the Overreaction Show Monday, Mr. Sorrell, but I'm glad you're in here. Glad, hopefully you're feeling well. It's always good to see you. Always good to see you. Barry says buy or sell. All them boys need to do is play like they know they're capable. Coaches need to allow some type of rhythm with the ones opposing a sense of dominance before a heavy rotation start. 88 is great. Buy or sell. All right. Well, let me unpack this. There's about three different things that you threw at me here, Barry. There's three different things. We'll start with 88 is great, of course. Well, so I'll buy on that one. There's the second one. We'll start the second one. That first one, which is all they need to do is play like they know they're capable. Buy on that one. Now the second one is coaches. There's three statements here. Coaches need to allow some type of rhythm with the ones opposing a sense of domination before the heavy rotation at the start. I'll buy on that, and here's why. I'm all about, there's two things that I think are in play for me, which is from a conditioning standpoint, I get it. He wants to be able to assert the dominance in the fourth quarter. But from a conditioning standpoint, you've got to have the dogs that should be able to play, a good amount of snaps. And there's something to be said for figuring out your opponent. I think when you get to go against someone, play in and play out, at some point you say to yourself, okay, he did this on this play. I made this move. He did this as a counter. All right, I'm going to do that again and see if I can get around him. Oh, he countered. I think there's a chess game that, hey, sometimes if you get taken out, it's hard to figure out. So I'm with you on that. So I'm going to buy it on everything. I just can't buy without thinking it through, by the way. But you have to be able to, the good ones, they figure them out eventually. But if you play in and then you rotate it out and for a little bit, then coming back in, you've got to get a rhythm in it. There is something to be. I mean, you guys know one of my, no trade secrets. You guys know, like, one of my good friends, obviously, is Sap, and there's a method to the madness. As far as like, okay, bap. So yeah, I'm with you all that. Like, I think I get what's being done. I don't necessarily disagree. And my thing from a conditioning standpoint, look, if you start conditioning in January and start training in January for what you need to do in September, you should be good to go. You should be able, you train, it's like if you're training for 3K, you train for a 3K, you're training for a 5K, 10K, 25 marathon, whatever the case it is, you train your body for that. And you train your body to withstand the pounding that it takes in order to survive 4 quarters. That's what they do in the NFL. That's what elite athletes do. So I'm 100% with you. Let them guys get in there. Those are your starters. Ride with them. Let them cook. and let them figure it out. And yeah, sure, they may be okay in the fourth quarter, but again, there's also something to be said from start to finish. And if you can start to finish it and spell them when they need to be spelled, I think there's something to be said for that. So you know what? I buy to all three. And we'll still ride with 88. We're still going to ride with 88 is great. We have to see if we get to that double-digit sack mark. We have to see if that happens. But I will buy out now that I've talked it through. I will buy on that one. Good one. Good question. Darian, back in the house again. Buy or sell? As we go in the second half of the season, Sark will try to push CJ Baxter in front of Jonathan Brooks. Man. This is tough. Because I know it would almost be, Darian, to a certain degree, coaching malpractice to do that. I'll be honest with you. So we have the running joke that I guess I started with with CJ being his boo, but I have to, Darian. I have to believe. I have to believe that at the end of the day, no matter what, Sark is going to say, you know what? This is the guy that's going to get the majority of touches, which is going to be Brooks. And then CJ Baxter is going to be a notch below that. So if Brooks is at, that 18-ish, then maybe CJ's at 12 or so. Maybe it's at 10, something to that effect, like 12-ish. I kind of feel like that's where it's at. I think in the ideal world, he would love it to be as close as possible. Kind of talked about that before the bye week, as far as having, that thing. But there's got to be a part of me that just believes that Sark understands, hey, somehow, some way you stumbled into finding one of the best running backs in the country. Just is what it is. And look, man, it would if that was the plan, if he thought Jonathan Brooks would be one of the best running backs in the country, he would have started Jonathan Brooks from day one. Period. So that's why I say stumbled. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to him, but I know they got people that watch this. So make sure when you guys relay the message back, make sure you speak on everything. Don't cut bits and pieces out of it. Be like, I almost said you accidentally found him. Some things happen. And sometimes some guys come in and end up exceeding your expectation, and that's okay. You want that. You want a guy who's hungry, that came in and all of a sudden showed you something in the game that maybe you hadn't seen in practice. That's okay. You readjust. You say, all right, hey, I don't know where this guy's been. I'm glad he's here. We'll take it. My thing is, Darian, at the end of the day, I feel like he's just got to say, you know what? Hey, this wasn't the plan, but forget the plan. Throw it out. We got to ride Brooks. And then CJ Baxter, we've got you for the next, 2 years after this. You're not going anywhere. Jonathan Brooks goes pro. We're good to go. So I'm going to sell on it just because I just got to think from a logical standpoint. He's just not going to do that. This is my thought. So I don't think I'm going to tell you it's a soft sell. I will tell you that, Darren. It's a soft sell. If there ever was a soft sell, and I'm like, I'll sell on it, but I'm not 100% confident in what I'm saying. But I'm just trying to think logically. Good question. That was a hell of a question, Darian. Golly, that was a really good question. That was a great question, by the way. Actually, all the questions have been really good today. I'm gonna be honest with you. All the questions have been really good. I appreciate it. ATX Big Rich in the house. Big Rich. I like it. Where's BLK Crypto? I haven't seen him in a while. Speaking of Rich, just throwing that in there. Buy or sell a one-loss Big 12 team, okay, assuming Texas wins the Big 12, would be out of the CFP picture if the other conferences have undefeated teams, ACC, SEC, Pac-12, and Big 10. Yeah, I'll probably buy on that one. I think here's why I'm going to buy on that one. And I think it'll be a little bit unfortunate, and it won't be anything that's Texas is doing. But at the end of the day, when the season's done, I think that, especially if everyone else has undefeated teams, I think it'd be unfortunate, and I think there'd be a case that can be made for Texas. But I think what's going to work against them when it's all said and done is at the end of the year, Oklahoma and Alabama might be the only two teams that are ranked. And the other teams that they would have defeated probably aren't going to be ranked. And Kansas State's probably not going to be ranked. Kansas isn't going to be ranked or anything like that. So because those teams won't be ranked, I don't know if they'll say Texas had enough quality wins on their schedule. And so I think they'll say they beat up on a pretty weak SEC, SEC, soon to be SEC. They'll say they beat up on a weak Big 12. I think they'll say there was only two good teams on their schedule, and I think that'll be the thing that works potentially against them. Now there'll be a lot of teams that went on to go to bowl games, but like right now, if you tell me all the other programs are undefeated, yeah, I think the math works against Texas at that point. So you just got to hope that. You got to hope one Texas wins out. You just got to hope for some luck that's in there. Now, if there's a tie between Texas and let's see if someone for the fourth seed, and that team has one loss, then I feel a little bit better about Texas' chances of getting in. But yeah, like when Rhett Moore talks about, like I think the Washington hype train is there, where they're going to want a team like Washington in there, and they don't want to keep a team like Washington out. So I think you need a loss. I definitely think you need a loss. But good question though. ATX Big Rich, really good question. Appreciate it. Buyer Summer John Hendricks, I think he must be mean. Is dark a play on words, or do you just mean to say Sark? Well, yeah, D. Okay, S is there. Okay, I just want to make sure that it's not a play on words. Like I wasn't missing some sort of hidden joke or something to that effect. He says also buy or sell. Sark was showing his ass when he said he wouldn't change anything about the way he managed the game on Texas's last drive. Well, I guess it all depends on how you're using the term showing his ass. So I guess I'll buy on it. If you're thinking about it, he's like, I don't care. Now I think he's what he said what he meant and meant what he said, that he wouldn't change anything on that. Like I think he absolutely meant that. So 100%. Sure, I would buy on that. If you're talking about he just doesn't give a damn, they're showing his ass, like, yeah, show. If you say he doesn't give a damn, if we're talking about showing his ass, like, I don't care, then yes, absolutely, he don't care. He said he'd do it, and he'd do it again. So 100%, I would buy on that one. Let's do one more. And then I want to kind of get into a little bit of the subject before I get Jason Suchomel here at 10:20. Uriel is back again. Okay, Uriel told me you were joking about potentially hitting the cancel button, so unsubscribe button. So thank you. Was a little out of pocket though. You was right about that. Buy or sell. Quinn throws for a 400-yard game against Houston this weekend. 400 yards. I'll sell on that one. That's a lot, because I think if Houston's winning sizably, I don't think Quinn's not really in the Heisman race at this moment. I don't think they're competing for that. I would see it more like Malik getting some reps in the fourth quarter. So no, I would say I would sell on that one. I wouldn't see 400. I think he just gets pulled when it's all said and done. See, again, other programs that are consciously trying to compete for a Heisman trophy, like trying to get their guy to win a Heisman. Sure, I can see that. But in this case, I would say no to that one. So I would sell on that one. But I'd say 3+ though is definitely in the house. And here's the other thing. He also talked about from Joseph Duarte. He said that they're bad against the run. So this might be a Jonathan Brooks, CJ Baxter cooking kind of game as well. So that's another reason why I'd sell on that one, because they do have a legit running back when you have that. So I sell. Good question though, really good question. All right, let me talk about something. Let's talk about the something to prove thing. Okay, let me get into one of my subjects at hand as we close into the 10 o'clock hour here. So Steve Sarkisian said, a lot of things on this past Monday, yesterday, and I kind of went over at the top of the hour what he was getting into. By the way, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And we kind of, we went over as far as Jonathan Brooks, and I think he talked about the big plays that are happening in the run game. He talked about trying to get better on the red zone offense, feeling good how they did certain things. So we kind of went heavy into that, and haven't seen it go back, through that. He said something though that I thought was really interesting. And he says when they start talking about this team and how they play better when they have something to prove. He said they play better when they had an edge. And I'll tell you honestly, it gave me a lot of questions. His quote was this. He goes, I think inevitably for us, I think for us, inevitably we're at our best. He said, I said this coming into the season, when we do play with an edge, and we play like we have a chip on our shoulder, and when we play like we have something to prove. And he goes, I think it goes without saying we've got something to prove in the second half. And I sat there, and sometimes you hear something and it doesn't really register right away. And you just hear it, and it's like I'm a processor, right? And for me, if you say something to me right away, you guys hear me, like you guys, you see my thought process. You guys ask me a buy or sell question. I don't just blurt out an answer. I kind of talk it through. And then you sort of like, Sorrell's question. And then at some point I'm like, yeah, here's my answer. This is what I got going on. So when he said that they play, when they play in an edge and they kind of play their best when they have something to prove, I really sat back and I was like, and what I want to say right now is no disrespect. And I know when someone starts going, oh, there's no disrespect, it's almost like, oh, damn, it's about no disrespect. It's no disrespect because I respect everybody. But with all due respect to the notion that Texas plays better when they have something to prove, and that Texas plays, that gives them more of an edge, and that gives these players and this team more of an edge, I would have to ask, and I ask this sincerely, what has anyone accomplished that they would think that they don't have something to prove every single game? What has this team accomplished, and what has this program accomplished recently that would make you think that you would only play better and have an edge when you have something to prove? With all due respect, what the hell has anyone proven so far? When we talk about this team and we start talking about this program, we start talking about the last time this team won a Big 12 championship was in 2009. You don't think you have something to prove? When we talk about the last time this team had double-digit wins in a season was 2018, you don't think you have something to prove? I mean, when we talk about the last time this team was really going back to 2009, that's the last time this team was legit competing for a national title. Legit competing for a national title. You saying that you don't feel like you have something to prove? You're not playing with an edge? I want to know what world are we operating in where this coach is having to have to motivate you guys in order to feel like you've got something to, well, we got something to prove. These guys play from the edge. Excuse me? I'm sorry. Over the last decade, we saw TCU at Oklahoma State win the majority of games against this program. You would tell me you ain't got something to prove? Are you kidding me? When we talk about Gary Patterson and Mike Gundy being the coaches that have basically owned this program, you don't have something to prove? Sark has got to find a way to get you to play with an edge. So he's got to somehow manufacture some sort of story, because now, hey, if you guys feel like you have something to prove, what are you sitting back there thinking that you've done and what you've accomplished? This is a 5-win team 2 years ago. 5 wins. He didn't even go to a bowl game. And you over here, and he's got to tell you that you guys got something to prove? Or excuse me? Excuse me? I have issue with that. I have issue. What has this year? Let's go to this year. You want to talk about the past? Okay, why you always bringing up old stuff? Right? I know what you guys say. Why you always got to bring up old stuff? Okay, let's bring up this year. What the hell have you proved? The win against Bama? Okay, and that was 1 win. You tell me, yes, you had something to prove against Bama, because everyone said you couldn't beat Bama. And everyone said Bama was a better team than you. And you're going to go on the road and lose. And Nick Saban, he dominates and blah, 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 right? So maybe you felt like you had something to prove. Okay, got it. All right, you had something to prove against them. You didn't have nothing to prove against Oklahoma? Wait, excuse me? There's nothing. You had nothing to prove against OU just a couple of weeks ago? Was there a feeling that you had arrived? Is that what I'm being led to believe? Huh? Because how can you go into a game? It's like, well, they play better when they're on they got more of an edge. They got more of an edge to them when they got something to prove. You had nothing to prove again in the Red River? What? I mean, because that cannot be the case. And we can't have a coaching staff that's trying to figure out ways to motivate you and be like, man, you got something to prove. I mean, yes, you're ranked in the top 10. Yes, people are talking about you as a potential, Big 12 championship team. Yep, they're talking about you as a potential national championship contender. But you still haven't proven a damn thing. You're not. Georgia's proven something. Ohio State's proven something. They've proven something. You haven't proven anything. And guess what? If you don't get there, if you don't get to the Big 12 championship game, guess what? This will go down as one of the biggest failures of a season in recent Texas football history. One of the biggest failures if you do not get there. You don't have something to prove. This team has something to prove. And that thing that they need to prove to themselves is an internal thing. It has to be internal. I have issue with this. I'm serious about this thing. This team has to prove that they're more than just hype, that they're more than just front runners, that they're more than just the Dallas Cowboys of college football. That's that. You want something to prove? Prove that. Prove that you're more than just a 5-1 team, that you're more than just a bunch of front runners, but you're a team that can go out and finish off the second half of the season. You haven't won a Big 12 title since 2009. Damn it, man, you have something to prove. All this motivation that comes needs to come from within about something to prove. Because, if we look at the schedule, what do you have to prove against Houston? What do you have to prove against BYU? What do you have to prove against Kansas State? What do you have to prove against TCU? Iowa State, Texas Tech. What do you have to prove against any of those programs? There's really nothing to prove. There's no quote-unquote win in it for you. No one's going to pat you on the back and say, damn it, man, great win against Houston. So glad about that. No one's going to be waiting for you. No one's going to be jumping in the fountain if you beat any of these teams that are out there. That's not going to happen. So what other motivation do you have? And it can't be Sark trying to find ways to motivate your ass. Your motivation should be you have accomplished nothing. Not a thing. Is there a championship banner that's getting placed for 5-1? Let me know. Let me know when you're going to be there. Let me know when you're hosting the trophy for this one. Let me know. You haven't. You've accomplished nothing. You know what Texas needs to prove? You know what they need to prove? They need to prove to themselves that they actually are everything that people build them up to be. That's what they need to prove. Okay? They need to prove to themselves that they can actually be better in the red zone offensively than what they are right now. That's, you want to talk about stuff you need to prove? You need to prove to yourself that defensive performance against Oklahoma was some sort of fluke. You want to prove something? Yeah, that's what you need to prove. And forget having to prove, we got to prove ourselves against certain opponents. Let's prove this to yourself. Prove to yourself that you're better tacklers than what we saw against Oklahoma. Because what we saw against Oklahoma from a tackling perspective was an abomination. And what we saw in that final drive was absolutely ludicrous. And let's prove that you can have effective pass rushers on the edge. All due respect. When have something to prove? Prove that one. Prove that you can create turnovers consistently. Prove that. Prove that you can play your brand of football for 4 quarters. Prove that. That's what we need to be talking about. This is internal. This is not this external thing. This is not, man, they play with an edge when they got something to prove. Well, you got a lot to prove. But it's not necessarily proving it to everybody else that you're going to beat somebody. You got to be able to prove and say and play. You got to have a chip on your shoulder because you've accomplished nothing. And until you accomplish something, I don't need your coach out here telling me the ways he's got to figure out how to motivate you. And I understand that's his job. He's doing his job. There's nothing. This is not a Sarkisian thing. I have an issue with what he's having to do. Because I have an issue with him having to say, they play better when they've got something to prove. You have something to prove because you have not accomplished a damn thing since you stepped on campus. None of you collectively have accomplished anything since you have stepped on campus. Where's the rings? Give me the banner. Over the last 2 years, give me your bowl victory. I'll wait. What do you have? Nothing. So that's why over the next 6 games, forget about having to blah, 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 and prove certain things. And you can prove things to yourself and all this. You know what you need to prove? You need to prove that you really are the Texas Longhorns that everyone says that you are. That the thing that people pump you up, all your friends pump you up, the things that you see on Twitter, all that, prove that it's right. Prove that more than anything else. Because that's what matters. Like I said, I love something to prove. Something to prove. It's so interesting to put that out on social media, right? They put that out on their social media thing, on their Twitter thing. Something to prove. Something to prove. Nah, man. Here's what you got to prove. Prove some crap over the next 6 games. Go out and kick some ass. How about this? Win the next 6. Get to the Big 12 championship game. Win it. Then I will be okay with your coach coming out there saying, well, we play better, we have a chip on our shoulder, and when we got something to prove. I'm sorry, you should have a chip on your shoulder right now for the underachievements that have occurred throughout your tenure here. And you should have something to prove because you've accomplished nothing at this moment. Ask Quinn Ewers yesterday. I said, after the Alabama game, you called a players only meeting. And you asked to those guys and got those guys together, and because everyone was celebrating the Alabama victory. And I said, so what did you do with that again? And if not, what was your message to the team last week. And he said to me, he goes, I think it's more goes unsaid. Because we didn't call a team meeting, but the points we made, we feel like we didn't need one. Because like I said, we didn't want to hold on to how we felt after the game, because that's just one game at the end of the day, but it's a big one. But we need to continue chipping away at our next opponent, but not totally forget what had happened. Fair enough. But all I have to say is everybody on this team has something to prove. Coaching staff, players, trainers, everybody has got something to prove. And there's no way for them to sit back and rest on anything. They've accomplished nothing. 5-1 midseason awards means nothing. No one cares. It's great. Awesome to have. Awesome to be here. Beats the alternative. Beats what other programs are. But if I have to hear Sark get on the podium and talk about how you guys get a more of an edge and when you have something to prove, when you've proven nothing, something's wrong. And it starts internally and it works externally. Accomplish something, then sit back and say, whew. But until you've done that, you haven't done it. That's all I got to say. Now, listen, every week, and Craig is right. Every week, they should have a chip on their shoulder. Every single week. Every single week. There's no reason not to have a chip on your shoulder. And you know what good teams do? Good teams find a way to win regardless of who's in front of them. They don't play down to the level of competition. They just go in, kick people's butt, get the win, and go out of it. But if I ever have to hear that again, I'm telling you, the rant will be a lot harder. And hopefully we don't have to hear that again. And hopefully over the next 6 games, they step up and do what needs to be done, because that's ultimately what's going to be the sign of a good team. In a great team is the one that doesn't need some sort of motivation, but teams that do it because that's just what they do. All right, Aaron, let's go to break. And then when we come back from break, we're bringing Jason Suchomel, and we will blame him for everything Ryan Wingo related. And by the way, make sure you right now, as we're on break, guess what kind of hat Jason is wearing for the show. Guess that hat. Put it in your Specs chat line. And let's see what Jason is doing. Jason Suchomel will be coming back in the next 2 minutes.
This Orange Bloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best recruits from the Charlie Strong era, wide receiver Devin Duvernay. Duvernay was one of the top prospects that the Longhorns signed in the 2016 recruiting class, but his pathway to the Longhorns was as unconventional as anyone in that class or almost any other. The number 52 overall player in the country, number 5 player in the state of Texas, and number 8 wide receiver in the country per Rivals, the high 4-star super blue chip had one doozy of a recruitment. Before he attended a Texas Junior Day in February of 2015, he told Orange Bloods' Jason Suchomel that the Longhorns were front and center in his recruitment. Quote, "They're in it. I like Texas. Grew up liking Texas," Duvernay said. "When I've been there, I like them. With the new staff, I like what they're doing. I think the program will be back pretty soon." Yet Baylor, the first school to actually offer Duvernay a scholarship, was always a school that had his attention. It also had his brother Donovan's attention as well, as he made the jump to commit to Baylor in September of 2015. 2 months later, Devin joined him, choosing the Bears over Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. That's right, no Texas among his initial group of finalists. That was pretty much that for Duvernay, as he signed in February of 2016 with the Bears. But Duvernay decided to explore other options after a sexual assault scandal surrounding the Baylor program and the subsequent firing of head coach Art Briles. It was later discovered that Duvernay's national letter of intent was never properly submitted by Baylor, making him immediately open to other programs. After not having the Longhorns among his original finalists, Duvernay signed with the Longhorns in June of 2016. And once Baylor released his brother, he also joined the Longhorns 2016 recruiting class. When it was all said and done, Baylor's loss turned out to be one hell of a gain for the Texas football program, who added one of the best receivers in school history.
All right, let's go into our Speakeasy Lounge. Let's check in with Jason Suchomel and see what kind of hat he's wearing. Oh!
I'm still in vacation mode, Anwar. It's my beach hat.
I love it. Hold on. Wait, what are you doing, Aaron? Yes, that's awesome. Look at this hat. That's your on the beach hat, right?
That's my beach hat. I took it last week. You texted me, and I was like, "Oh man, I've got my my blue Adidas and my beach hat, my straw hat. I don't wear it anywhere else. But I have a confession to make. Can I make a confession?
Yes.
They were right, and Ben's right. I went and changed my hat, man. I had
You know what you did? You're like the commit who put on one hat. All you needed to do was just throw it across the room.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I'm going with Adidas.
Yeah. Ben even said, Jason, you can't switch. So Ben gets bonus points because I had my blue Adidas hat on, and as soon as you said that, I ran out of the room and got my other hats.
How was the vacation? Then you're down in Florida, right?
Yeah, we went to Fort Lauderdale. Just me and the wife got away from reality for a few days. Did absolutely nothing, and those are kind of my kind of vacations, dude. So it was good.
Nice. You hit any good spots in Fort Lauderdale at all? Hit the beach? Anything?
Oh yeah, we were on the beach, but that's about it, man. We went to some hamburger joint that we walked to, and then we did go. There's a street there. I can't remember what it was. It had some shops on. It was raining one day, but no, like we've been to Fort Lauderdale twice now, and we literally just go to the beach, and that's pretty much our routine. Then we get something to eat at the little place we stay at. And so people ask me like, hey, how's Fort Lauderdale? I couldn't even tell you, dude. I see the airport and I see the beach, and that's it, man. So
okay. So in other words, Jason, you stayed in a room for a reason. I'm just cutting through it. Jason's like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Get rid of. Hey, I'm away from 4 kids, Anwar, for a few days. You got to maximize that time, brother.
If you're producing 4 kids, we know, Jason. We know you spend a lot of time in that bedroom. That's for damn sure. So, Jason,
not as much as I used to, but yeah.
Well, it's going to be even less if she watches this segment. So, Jason, you while on vacation, though, you made that into a working vacation, and we'll start.
I can't help myself. It's a sickness on where I can't.
Well, yeah, it's a sickness that I'll be honest with you, I don't have all the time, but no, I do too. It is what it is. And Jason, by the way, if you guys got recruiting questions for Jason, start getting those in the chat right now. You had a Ryan Wingo update on Thursday, and that's pretty much all that anyone read in the war room. And it's been several days, and I want to know if anything has changed from that update, and go kind of give people an understanding of it for those who didn't have a chance to see it last week.
Yeah, it wasn't great in terms of Texas news, but Ryan Wingo, the 5-star receiver from St. Louis, of course, he visited Missouri, I guess it'd be 2 weekends ago, unofficially. Missouri had, one person described it to me as maybe their biggest recruiting event ever. I mean, they had a 5-star commitment there. They had another 5-star on campus. Obviously, Wingo, they had a receiver from the state of Missouri that's committed to Ohio State that Missouri thinks they're going to flip. And you hear one side of it. Obviously, I'm checking around on the Missouri side of things, but I'm hearing that extreme confidence, I would almost call it, on the Missouri side, to the point like, Wingo has been open and pretty steadfast in saying, hey, I'm not going to commit until December. I mean, there was a time in the summer when he said, hey, maybe he'll move it up a little bit, but he didn't. He's lately been saying he's going to stick to his December guideline or December timeline, excuse me. What I'm hearing, and Texas isn't throwing in the towel, to be clear, and I'll circle back to that. But what I'm hearing is that Missouri, coming out of that weekend visit, felt really, really good to the point that they think there's a chance that Wingo commits in the next week or two, to Missouri. This was on whatever it was, Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. I first heard that. You mentioned that we put it in the war room on Thursday, and I heard it again on Sunday. So that confidence hasn't changed. Now, what is it, Tuesday? I haven't checked back in the last 48 hours, but Missouri's still confident. That being said, hey, Texas, they did send Chris Jackson to Wingo's game on Friday. So Texas isn't giving up. And I'll say this about Ryan Wingo. There was a time early on when it looked like Missouri was going to be the team to beat, okay? Then there was a time when he visited for the Wyoming game, I pushed all my chips in on Texas. I was like, hey, this looks great for Texas. Now he visits Missouri again. It looks great for Missouri. So this one swings back and forth pretty progressively and pretty frequently. I think if Texas, they have to be able to get him back on campus. I think that's a possibility. But right now, it is certainly trending towards Missouri based on the things I'm hearing.
Jason, I'm looking while you were talking. I decided to go and look up the offer sheet for Texas to all their receivers. Yeah. And if you look at it, and you don't have it memorized, but Jason, when I look at all the receivers that they offered, just about everybody's committed at this point. Like there are not a lot of guys left. I mean, there's and Texas has Parker Livingston. They have Freddie Du Bois. I think those are the two. Am I missing anyone else in 2024?
Those are the two commitments I have, right?
There's 20, and I'm looking at the list, Jason. Everybody else, maybe I see a Hunter Modden.
Hunter Modden was a one-time Texas commitment. They kind of went their separate ways. Texas isn't even recruiting him at this point. So
yeah, I see a guy who's not listed by the name of Cameron Coleman out of Phoenix City, Alabama.
Yeah, former A&M commitment there that I don't think Texas is very involved there. So
well, then Jason. What's left? I mean, at this point, like this from the offer sheet, they're done, and it looks like they would only have two guys left. If that's the case, unless there's some guys that aren't on our list at this moment, it sounds like at this moment it's a huge whiff as far as recruiting at the receiver position.
Yeah, you know what? He's still committed. Why did I say former? He's still committed, but it's not showing up. Cam Coleman, I'm sorry, like it threw me. Like I click on his profile and it says full commitment to A&M, but yeah, he's still committed. But then on Mother profile, it's showing as not being committed. But to your point, Anwar, yeah, it's not great. And listen, I mean, Texas really loves Parker Livingston. Okay, I've heard that he was second on their board behind Micah Hudson, and that's probably for in-state guys. I'm not sure how Ryan Wingo would figure into that. So that was a really good get to get Parker Livingston, but he played in 2 games this year. He's going to miss probably the entire season with a foot injury. Freddie Du Bois missed, I think he played in a half of a game last year, missed his entire junior year. He's back this year. I talked to Freddie on Sunday, and Freddie's a brutally honest dude. I mean, I love that about him. And he's like, hey, I'm not having the kind of season I expected. So, you've got 2 guys I think who have a lot of upside, but they have some question marks coming in, including their health. Now, Texas did just offer a guy named Isaiah Wilson, who is committed to Florida. Pete Kwiatkowski was at his game on Friday, scouting Solomon Thomas, a linebacker that Texas is recruiting, an edge player. They liked Isaiah Williams enough. They offered him. He's been committed to Florida for a long time. He's from Tampa. He did tell me he probably is going to set up a Texas official visit. So, there's a potential flip there. And then literally, Anwar, like 20 minutes before I came on the air with you, a guy named JoJo Stone out of Fairburn, Georgia. I have to look this up. Fairburn, Georgia, Langston Hughes High School. But JoJo Stone was committed to LSU since July. He is now decommitted. He decommitted today. That one's interesting because, listen, JoJo Stone was a guy that was going to visit Texas back in June. He was going to take a Texas official visit. I would have argued back then Texas was probably his second choice behind LSU. Well, now he's decommitted from LSU. He's a Rivals 250 member. We kind of heard some rumblings this morning on Orange Bloods that, hey, Texas has its sights on somebody. We didn't get a name, but then JoJo Stone decommits. He's a guy that Texas has talked to before. So, we're keeping an eye on JoJo Stone. I'll need to reach out to him probably as early as this evening to kind of see if anything's kind of heating up there with Texas. But they've got a couple other irons in the fire, but it's not where you want to be, if we're being honest. I mean, people ask about Micah Hudson. I don't think there's anything going on there. Freddie DeBose told me that he still talks to Micah quite a bit, and he didn't get the impression there's anything going on with Texas and Micah Hudson. A&M might be the more likely team to watch there if he flips from Texas Tech. So the short answer to your question is, yeah, there aren't a ton of options, but they've got a couple irons in the fire that they can maybe try to heat up here pretty soon.
Well, I mean, ideally, Jason, you want to take more than 2 guys, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so you want to be.
They're preaching. Sorry, Anwar, they're preaching to all these recruits they're recruiting. Hey, we're losing Whittington. We're losing Worthy. We're probably losing A.D. Mitchell. I mean, they're preaching these dudes like, hey, we're losing a ton. You can come right in and play as a true freshman. So absolutely, they need more than 2 guys.
Yeah, I mean, and then at this point, Jason, I have to ask it, and I know it's this is just pie in the sky stuff, but people keep talking about Evan Stewart, right? I mean, Evan Stewart, possibilities, so on and so forth. I know it's October. This is beyond speculation and guesswork and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, but you covered Evan Stewart as a recruit, so you're kind of familiar with him. I think people were wondering about it last year. I mean, is that a wait and see for you as relates to that possibility? And if not, is the only really hope is basically going into the transfer portal after the season in order to kind of make this recruiting thing better especially for the receiver position. To your point, they probably lose Xavier, probably lose, Adonai Mitchell. You don't know who you're probably going to lose in the transfer portal. It gets really thin, slim pickings when you start looking at next year.
Yeah, the Evan Stewart question, I'm kind of, like you said, kind of a wait and see approach there. Evan is a bit of a wild card, so nothing would surprise me with Evan Stewart. He's kind of like Micah Hudson, different personalities, but they're very, a lot of these receivers, I mean, people call them divas for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Evan's a diva necessarily, but, these wide receivers sometimes are unpredictable. So, if A&M keeps having its issues, and obviously their quarterback situation's up in the air with Wegman injured, but then is he going to want to come to Texas when Quinn Ewers might be leaving? Texas will be possibly breaking in a new quarterback. There's a lot that goes into that, but nothing with Evan Stewart would surprise me. Someone in the chat asked about why would Wingo want to go to or live in Columbia? Well, he's from Missouri, of course, so not Columbia, but he's from Missouri. Missouri does a pretty good job of keeping, when they have like truly elite 5-star type guys, they do a pretty good job of keeping those guys in state. And I did hear, talking to a Missouri source, if it comes down to NIL, you think of Texas being the big bad wolf, that can throw money around. I've heard Missouri is not messing around. They will do whatever it takes to keep Ryan Wingo. So it's not like Texas is a big NIL advantage there when it comes to Ryan Wingo. I think Missouri will pony up a pretty penny to try to keep him in state.
And Missouri is actually having some success, right? And isn't that one of the things you reported that, hey, he does like what he's seeing from that offense so far?
The offense and Luther Burden, their wide receiver, arguably the best receiver in the country this year. So they're looking at him and saying, hey, look what we're doing with this homegrown guy. Come do the same thing for us.
Yeah. Okay. So, off of that, what else is going on from a recruiting standpoint? I haven't had a chance to check out your 3-2-1, but any interesting news or notes you might be willing to pass along?
Yeah, fairly quiet week. The coaches were on the road last week during the bye week, kind of scattering around. I know Sark was in Duncanville, and he was out in California to watch the Mater Dei St. John Bosco thing there. We're still keeping an eye on DeAndre Carter, the offensive lineman from Mater Dei that is still committed to Auburn, but he visited Texas a couple weeks ago. Kind of getting some conflicting vibes there, Anwar. Like, I've heard like, hey, Texas did a pretty good job on that visit, and they've got a chance to flip him, and maybe there were starting to be some NIL discussions, and that's going to be big. But then I heard last week from a source that I really trust that his heart is still favoring Auburn. His mom is supportive of him going to Auburn. He's got some other people around him that maybe think Texas is the better opportunity in terms of playing time and NIL, and a little bit closer to Cali than Auburn is, obviously. So a little bit of moving parts there. My gut tells me, his heart is with Auburn is what I'm hearing. I think he'll stick with Auburn, but I don't know. The longer this goes on, he says, I can get on a plane from Cali and be in Austin in 2 hours direct. That's pretty easy. I've got great NIL opportunities at Texas. So we're still keeping an eye on that one. I mentioned the new wide receiver offer. to the kid out of Tampa. So
Yeah.
those are the big developments, and then just trying to
Mhm.
keep chipping away on a guy like Ryan Wingo. And I am really curious to reach out to JoJo Stone, the receiver, former LSU receiver commitment. I'll try to do that tonight, see if I can get an update there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's when the commitment of Colin Simmons really helps as far as his recruiting rankings are concerned for this season. You do have some questions that's coming for Jason. So, Craig Semlinger, hopefully I'm saying that correct. Probably I'm not, so I apologize, Craig. Any D linemen in the sights for the defensive side of the ball, Jason?
Not a lot. Texas did visit Dimitri Nicholas. He's from Miami. I can never remember what school he's from. They did visit. They offered him recently. He's another Auburn commitment. They visited him, Miami Norland. They visited him last week. They offered again all this. Alex Foster is a kid from Mississippi that's committed to Baylor. He's a defensive end, kind of defensive tackle combo. He's just 280. We have him listed as a strong side defensive end, probably more of an interior guy, but he's from Mississippi, kind of Bo Davis's stomping grounds. He's committed to Baylor. Texas offered him last week. I haven't been able to connect with Alex. I don't have a good number, and he's not following me, so I'm trying to figure out ways to track down some better information on him. But I did check with another source on, I guess it was Thursday, it was for the War Room, and they kind of sniffed around and they said, hey, he seems pretty solid on Baylor. Unless something happens with Dave Aranda, he's trying to set up another visit to go to Baylor. So there's a couple defensive linemen that Texas is recruiting. They do want another interior defensive lineman for sure, but nothing that's of true substance just yet. DeAndre Robinson, the Texas defensive tackle commitment, who kind of flirted with Florida a little bit. He seems to have shown kind of tightened up his commitment. I actually was texting with him this weekend. So he's kind of tightened up his Texas commitment. Obviously, Alex January, the talented defensive lineman up at Duncanville, he's locked in. So defensive line and receiver and probably defensive back are the positions. Well, maybe offensive line too. I mean, they'd still like to add players at those positions. So they're certainly kicking the tires on some defensive linemen.
All right. We got you got some more. No, that's it. Well, let me ask you this, Jason. Is it a thin year for linebacker? Because I mean, like, Texas has done a good job of recruiting linebackers over the past couple of seasons. It's quiet. This is quiet as a church mouse as far as linebacker recruiting is concerned.
Yeah, it's really quiet. I've talked about Solomon Williams. He's listed as a linebacker, but he's more of like an edge rusher that specializes in getting to the passer. It's kind of Texas A&M. Alabama's involved there. He's visiting Oregon this weekend. He and Isaiah Williams, the receiver that I keep mentioning, they're teammates. So Texas is trying to get both of those dudes. They might go without a linebacker in this class, Anwar. I mean, Ty Anthony Smith is a guy who's committed to A&M that Texas kind of ran hot and cold with. They're still talking to him. They'd like to get him on campus. But it's a pretty thin year at linebacker. They loaded up on linebackers last year, so I don't think the coaches view it as a huge need. But I can't remember a class where there wasn't a linebacker in it. So this would be a first for me if Texas ends up not taking a linebacker in this class.
Yeah, if you take another kicker and not a linebacker, I'm just like, okay, what's going on? Jason, I know it's early in the week. I know you'll get into the Houston stuff, a little bit later as you start diving into it. But Sark spoke yesterday. I'm kind of curious to some of your biggest takeaways from his press conference on Monday.
Yeah, he really talked up Houston quite a bit, specifically with some of their players. And obviously they got the quarterback transfers from Tech who hurt Texas last year. But, my impressions are that this is a game Texas should win pretty easily. I haven't started my matchup, so I'll start probably working on that tonight, actually. But, it's funny in my 3-2-1 Anwar, I wrote it last night. And my one prediction at the very end, I said Texas is going to go 5-1. Over the last 6 games. I said there's going to be one game where they're going to have an off week, maybe a TCU or Iowa State who's playing pretty good football. All of a sudden, they're going to stub their toes somewhere they shouldn't. And I woke up this morning, I'm like, you know what, man, there's not a game on this schedule that Texas shouldn't win by more than one score. So I literally struck through all that. And I said, no, screw it. They're going to go 6-0. I think this team's confident, but I will say this, like, I've been doing this a long time, right? And over the years, I've noticed there seems to be a correlation between the excitement level of the fan base and how the team plays. Maybe the team just kind of isn't as excited either. And like, nobody's talking about this game this weekend, right? So my gut tells me, and it's Tuesday, so we'll see again on Friday or whatever. But my gut tells me Texas might kind of just be kind of like the fans are, just kind of taking this one for granted, go through the motions a little bit. There's no real rivalry with Houston. I mean, yeah, they've got some history, but nobody cares about Houston anymore. So, this is going to be a Super Bowl win or Super Bowl game for Houston. I'm not sure Texas is treating it the same way. I'm not saying at all Texas is going to lose this game. I'm still picking Texas probably by a sizable margin, but I just have a feeling it might be a little bit of a ho-hum performance just based on the kind of the mindset that I seem to be picking up from the fan base. Sark wasn't that way. Sark's like, hey, we got to, take it day by day, focus on today, do the usual stuff. But over the years, I just seem to notice a correlation between just the kind of the atmosphere and the perception from the fan base and the way the team ends up going out and playing. And, I just kind of got that same feeling with this week.
Well, it's funny. You touched in on what was kind of my rant before you got on here. Was when Sark said that basically the team, when they have a chip on their shoulder, he feels like they play better when they've got something to prove. He said that yesterday, and my response was, "What the hell have they proven that would allow them to basically not have a chip on their shoulder?" When you look at the lack of success this program has had. And it's weird to me though, Jason, because I mean, last week, 2 weeks ago, they had game day, versus OU. That's a game you should quote unquote be up for and ready to go and clicking on all cylinders. And that thing happened,
Right.
Loss happened. I'd say it's the end of the world, but it is curious to me, Jason, that halfway through the season, Sark is still trying to figure out ways to kind of get these guys motivated and figuring out, the Jedi mind tricks of how to play with these guys.
Yeah. And, he mentions it every week. It seems like, hey, I told the guys this on Sunday or Monday, you got to stay focused. You got to take it day by day, blah, blah, blah. The Oklahoma game, obviously, like you said, that happened. And it wasn't a flukish loss. I mean, Oklahoma kind of bullied them in a lot of ways, right, in the line of scrimmage. So that was surprising to me. Obviously, the turnovers were a huge factor in that game. But, I guess that's kind of the tricky part of being a college coach, is trying to get, teenagers and 20-year-olds motivated 12 consecutive weeks or 12 out of 13 weeks with a bye week, I guess. That's tricky sometimes. The great coaches are able to do it, but, even the Nick Sabans of the world and the Kirby Smarts have days when their team look unprepared. So, again, I think Texas will be ready this week. I think they'll win easily, but I just don't know that they're going to be mentally dialed in as much as maybe they will be some other games. So, we'll see.
Last thing I'm going to ask you, Jason, kind of a little bit of off topic is, when we talked about Texas this week, but we've also talked a little bit about A&M and what's happening over there. I'm just curious. I know I mentioned Evan Stewart from a recruiting standpoint. I mean, how long can A&M kind of stand, and how long? When it does it kind of become the breaking point for A&M when they just are not having the success on the field? Because it looks like from a recruiting standpoint, it looks like they're ranked 4th in the rankings, which is surprising to me. I'm just confused. How are they able to pull this off, and how long can they withstand this?
You know what? I would have thought the dam would have broken like a year or 2 years ago, right? But you're right. They just keep recruiting well, even when they're not playing well. They're just a very mediocre program on the field, but yet they're recruiting as an elite program. But it's funny. It's good timing on your question. I talked to an A&M person yesterday, and I was asking about Solomon Williams, the linebacker out of Florida that I mentioned. And I said, hey, because he took an official visit to A&M 2 weekends ago. I said, have you heard any buzz? Like, what's the vibe around College Station? And he goes, A&M thinks they're in a good spot. But this person said, I wouldn't put any money on any player committing to A&M right now. So, I mean, I'm kind of like you. I'm like, when is this dam going to break in terms of their recruiting momentum is going to cease, or decommitments are even going to happen? They're off this week, A&M. I think then they got, I was looking at their schedule, like South Carolina. They still got Ole Miss. They still got LSU. I mean, they're looking like a 7-5, 6-6 type of team to me, right?
Yeah.
You string together 2 or 3 of those in a row. I mean, I don't see how they continue to recruit the way they are, and maybe they end up losing some of the guys they currently have committed. Text Guy 2 in the chat says bags of money. The only explanation. Well, I'm certainly not going to argue with Text Guy 2. But on that front, I'm not making that accusation, but I'm not going to shoot it down either. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, it seems like Jimbo is just teetering on the brink, right, of just falling over the cliff. And, another loss next week to South Carolina, that might be the one that does it. And then maybe the recruiting just kind of goes in the tank.
All right, Jason, go ahead and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I'll see you on Slack.
Sounds good. Thanks, Anwar.
All right, Jason Suchomel from orangebloods.com, our recruiting guru that he is. All right, Aaron, let's go ahead and go to one last break, and then we will put a ribbon and bow on today's show.
This Orange Bloods recruiting flashback takes a look at arguably the most high-profile recruitment in the history of the Texas football program, at least until Arch Manning came along. Yes, I'm talking about former Texas quarterback Chris Sims, who was the nation's #1 ranked prospect when he came out of New Jersey in 1999. Sims took a look around all over the nation early in his recruitment, visiting the likes of Ohio State and Penn State, before eventually setting on his top two. The two UTs, Texas and Tennessee, were his two finalists. After taking an official visit to Austin in the fall of 1998, the Longhorns appeared to be poised to land Sims, which partly helped steer Eli Manning, who also visited Texas in the fall of 1998, to Ole Miss. Yet, when Sims announced his decision on December 15th on the MSG network, he picked the Vols over the Longhorns. Matt Brown later admitted that the Texas coaching staff was shocked by the news. Quote, "I'm proud to be a Vol, and it's a good place for me," Sims said upon his announcement. "I'm a big fan of Coach Fulmer, and I think it fits me right. I feel so relieved, and I can finally get back to being a high schooler and enjoying myself." Yet, the truth of the matter is that Sims wasn't really relieved about the decision, and word got around quickly that he was wavering on his commitment to the Vols almost as soon as he made the announcement. I can remember talking to a Texas source on January 1st of 1999, just before the Longhorns played Mississippi State in the Cotton Bowl, that the Longhorns were going to flip Sims away from Tennessee. A few days following the New Year's Bowl game, Sims called Texas assistant coach Tim Brewster to tell him that he was having second thoughts. Less than 3 weeks later, Sims sat down with his parents, Diana and Phil, you might have heard of him, to reevaluate the decision. The next day, he called Tennessee head coach Phil Fulmer to deliver the news. Sims said, quote, "The hardest thing I ever did in my life. The first thing he said to me was, 'Chris, I'm down here in Alabama recruiting you the best receiver in the country,' end quote." One day later, Sims made things official by flipping his commitment to the Longhorns, which helped cement a #1 overall recruiting class for Brown and his coaching staff. It proved to be a game changer for the Longhorns, as evidenced by the commitment of the big three wide receivers in the following recruiting class: B.J. Johnson, Roy Williams, and Sloan Thomas, as well as paving the way for Cedric Benson's commitment to the Longhorns in the 2001 recruiting class. Ultimately, it was one of the great recruiting moments in the history of the Texas football program.
All right. Great show. Well, at least I enjoyed it. Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle came in today. Jason Suchomel gave us all our recruiting information. We were able to talk about Texas and all that thing entails. And, of course, you guys got the update on my broken pinky toe, which I got my boot on. So, yes, wish me luck. I have decided that I have to have this boot on for several weeks. And so a few weeks. And I can't wait weeks to take the change the battery in the smoke detector. So just pray for me. I'm gonna get on that ladder. I can't do it. I gotta take it. Just pray. If you don't see me on the show tomorrow, I'll be broadcasting live from my hospital bed somewhere in Cedar Park. So I just hope I can make it up these stairs. Or at least I was making up my ladder. So wish me luck. Make sure you guys check out House Divided today. from noon to 3 o'clock. Check out Football with Friends. Alex Dunlap from 3:30 to 5:30. And then, of course, tomorrow morning, get your horns up. That's from 6:30 to 7:30 to get your day started. So I've had a fantastic time. I've had a fun time with everybody. Be safe. I'm serious. I'll finish how I started. Be safe on those roads, man. I saw too many accidents this morning. Flip car for 183. Like, man, just be safe. Slow down. Let the idiots go past you. You got nothing to prove. You'll get there. Let those idiots try to cut 3 minutes off their time. You be safe. And everyone have a safe Tuesday. Enjoy it. It's beautiful weather outside. It's nice. So go enjoy yourself. Do something. And by the way, last thing, go do something nice for yourself today. Just do something nice. You always do other nice things for other people. Always trying to make everybody else feel good. Do something good for yourself. Spoil yourself. Just a little something. If it's something small as a snack that you like, or watch a show that you like, do something special to yourself. You absolutely deserve it. I will be back tomorrow, so I'll see you guys then. And then until then, just remember what I always say: live each day like it was your last, because one day it will be.